how informed he is in our rights, our constitutional rights, and I won't hold him up any further. This is Wayne Glew. Make him welcome.
Yeah, my name is Wayne Glew. I'm a retired cop. I live in Geraldton.
We won't hold that against you.
After 2 years in the police force, I knew who the criminals were. They sat on the bench in the courts and sat in our parliament. They're the biggest pack of lying, thieving, manipulating people ever put on two legs. And that's all they are. I also learned that our law is 2 books. And all other law has to be derived from it. King James Bible, put in place in 1611 by King James, it's the common law, and the Constitution. And it's not the little one the government put out. This contains a lot. It's basically the inside of how it was put together. You have to read it and understand it in this form. The government form is about that thick, and if you read it, it may as well be about Mickey Mouse, because you've got the same understanding. There is nothing to understand out of their book. That's why they put it out. And they kept it concealed for that long. It's not funny. This Lord Coke said in 1230, in the first sitting in the High Court in England, God's law existed before all other law. It exists now and into the future as a common law of the people. When you understand that, and you understand the Gospels, you can understand the Constitution, because it's all based on this book. You've got to understand when Christ said in there, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments. All the churches say, oh, you're all under grace, you go and do whatever you like. No, you don't. What he said is you're sovereign. You make the decision where you want to go. You follow me, you'll go one place, you go the other way, you go the other place. You're sovereign. That sovereignty is what is explained in the Constitution. We, the people. It's not we, the government. It is we, the people. We own this country. It is ours. Everything that's on it. The Queen owns the land mass. And once you understand the setup, that's why I got it here. The people. Under it, the Constitution. The Constitution is quasi-sovereign. It is the will of the people expressed in the book. How we want our laws to be made. Every law must be made pursuant to it. You take out that, you've got nothing. There's no such thing as a government. Commonwealth government? Question mark. State government? Question mark. We don't have a government. We have a 3-tier governing body. Where did it come from? You go back before Federation to the Australasian Council. Timor, not East Timor, Timor belonged to Australia. New Guinea, Australia. Fiji, Australia. New Zealand, Australia. Australasia. It was all set as one unit. Go into your Constitution, what's in there? New Zealand. It is part of New South Wales. Why isn't it put there? Easy to separate, divide and conquer. That's what it's all about. Break down our system. What you've got to realise about Federation, what took place. Going to Clause 7 of the Constitution says that Federation, the old entities known as the Australasian Council, and the colonies ceased to exist on the proclamation of this Act. When was it proclaimed? 9th of July 1900. It was a British Act. How did it come about? You've got to go back into the history of the Constitution. It came about because Sir Edmund Barton, Isaac Isaacs, Samuel Griffiths, Dr. Quick, Sir Robert Garran, O'Connor, Parkes, and a heap of other people for 5 years went right across Australia to every one of the colonies and put together the Constitution. They put it together according to decisions of the courts in Canada, America, England, and cases that actually took place here. The government says that's common law. No, it's not. The Bible's the common law. That is decisions of courts that are applicable in this country. So they put them together and they come up with a draft copy of the Constitution. Did they have the authority to do it? No. How'd they get it? They had to put it to the Queen. She approved it. She then put it to the Parliament in England. They debated it for almost 8 months. It came back here. After their approval, it went to the Queen. She decided on the 9th of July 1900 to proclaim it as the Constitutional Act. Now you've got to remember, it is an act of the British Parliament. How did it become our Constitution? By referendum. Now, if you go back to Clause 7, the old entities known as the Australasian Council and the colonies ceased to exist. So 5 months, because Federation took place on the 1st of January 1901, 5 months we had no law except Imperial Acts. And that caused a big problem, because 106, 107, 108 and 109 of the Constitution moves not only the state constitution, but all the laws that have been made previously in the colonies into law in the new Federation of the Commonwealth of Australia, subject to the Constitution. Might sound complicated, but it isn't. But when Queen Victoria proclaimed the Act, she wiped out everything except imperial law. She realised that, and on the 29th of October 1900, put state constitutions, office of governor, instructions to the governor, and your electoral acts in place with the Imperial Act and Letters Patent. The government got all the governments, and they manipulated them big time. They removed large sections out of them because they thought they'd get away with it. The dumb old people wouldn't see what they've done. We had a lovely person here, so-called Lord John Forrest. He took 32 sections out of this state constitution and invalidated it all at the same time. Because then you've got to go back to your Imperial Acts. Statute of Monopolies says only the monarch can change a letters patent. Change means remove pieces or change a whole sentence. Just take it out and put something back in. And friends of mine put to McKechnie, Justice McKechnie, take out dollars, put in dollars and cents, take out pounds, shillings and pence. That's a change, an alteration, not a change. But it really boils down to if judges are appointed for 10 years and you change it to 8 years, that's an alteration. The text is there, the judges are appointed. You cannot take the appointment of judges out from that constitution. It is a very minute thing, but what took place at Federation? 106 says at Federation the states can retain their constitutions subject to this constitution. How far is it subjected to it? In its entirety. We have another area in the state constitution must be altered to comply with the Commonwealth one, because it's subject to it. First place is your executive, both of them. Under state constitution, the governor must select 10 from the lower house and 7 from the upper. That had to be changed to 8, so it required a referendum. It never happened. They never did it. All they did is just carry on with the 7. We've never had a lawful state on that issue alone. The other issue, the 32 sections missing. No lawful state. Where do we go from here? It's a long, hard road ahead then. They started passing laws according to a state constitution that they decided they could manipulate and change whenever they liked. Created a huge problem in this state, and it continues today. Do we know it? Most of us know. Why don't we know it? Well, we've been around for a while, but since 1975, Gough Whitlam in his wisdom decided to take the Constitution out of our schools, stop teaching it, and dumb down the population. Feed them a bit more fluoride, they won't be able to remember anything, and it works. And it really works.
What did you just say?
Hey?
Sorry, what did you just say?
It's a deadly poison. Who gave them the right, even if it doesn't improve your teeth, to put fluoride in the water? No one. That's a crime. What's done about it? Nothing. Why? We don't know. Every time I talk, I said the most imperative thing people must get in their head, look at the Constitution. Learn it. Because until you learn it, you're never going to be able to fight these clowns. They are. They think they're so smart. They laugh at you, they mock you behind doors, they pass laws that control you. Where does their authority come from? Certainly not from our law. Our law. How does it become ours? When you read the preamble, what does it say? Does anybody know what the preamble says? Most people don't. It says, by the grace of Almighty God, we, the people of New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria, Tasmania, South Australia and Western Australia, join together in one indissoluble federation of the Commonwealth of Australia. We the people. Where does it say we the government? It doesn't, because it can't. There is no such thing as Commonwealth government. There is no such thing as a state government. It's a three-tier governing body. You get the latest books out from the Department of Immigration that says we have 3 tiers of government in this country: federal, state and local. They just confuse the whole issue. And I'll explain what they confused there later. But if you look at the Commonwealth government, which is a governing body, you have an executive. The executive is the Governor-General. It's a man. Sorry, ladies. It's a man. It's an alteration can be done by referendum and must be done, given today's standards, because half the women here have got more intelligence than half the men. And I'm not just patronising, it's a fact. It has 3 tiers. What are the 3 tiers? Governor-General, the Attorney-General. Hello, that's just messed up the Parliament. The 3rd tier is the Executive Council. Where does it come from? Parliament. When we vote in a Parliament, they have to be independents. Every single one of them. The problem we have is they're not independent. They follow their parties. Who told them they can? Where in the Constitution says they can have parties? I'll come back to that issue in a minute. The Executive, you have the Governor-General. Who is the Governor-General? The highest legal authority in this country. What he says, until we change it to she, so we won't get on that issue, what he says must be obeyed. Why? She's Queen's representative. She's up here with us in the contractual agreement, which is this. She's party to it. She's bound by it. Now, the second part of this executive is the Attorney-General. Does it come out of Parliament? No. Under no circumstances can the Attorney-General come out of a Parliament, either Commonwealth or state. They lie and say, yeah, it must come out, they're intelligent, must be a lawyer. No. The Constitution says a legal, well actually it's not the Constitution, statute of monopolies, it has to be a legal practitioner of more than 5 years, not a lawyer. Why not a lawyer? This, Matthew 15, woe unto you lawyers, deceivers of the people. Do you want an Attorney-General there to deceive you? We've got one. Not allowed there. Has to be a legal practitioner. Who selects him? The Governor in Council. Who is he? The Queen's representative in putting legislation together. The Queen's. He's appointed as an officer of the Queen. Not a member of the Labor Party or the Liberal Party or any other mob of idiots that are in Parliament. He is the Queen's representative. Now you've got 2. The Governor-General and the Attorney-General under him. Who's the 3rd? 10 people from the lower house, 8 from the upper. They hold all the portfolios. Read chapter 2 of the Constitution, it makes it abundantly clear. They are the only ones that deal with the portfolios. And it also says, no one who holds a portfolio can sit and vote in Parliament because they're deemed to be biased against their portfolios. So now they've got a problem. They put the law together. They put it all together according to the Constitution. They mightn't all be bright enough to know their Constitution. They should. If they don't, they shouldn't really be there. But the Governor must know. The Governor-General must know. So must the Attorney-General. They put it to these. Who does the Parliament consist of? 3 tiers again. Why? Because there's a Trinity in the Bible. It's set up for the checks and balances to our law. Now, when the Attorney-General and the Executive and the Governor finish with putting the legislation together, it goes to the Parliament. What authority does the Parliament have? None. It has what's granted to it by this. Is there a Prime Minister? Yeah, but not legislated into the Constitution. There is no office of Prime Minister in the Constitution at all. So the donkey sitting there wielding all the power in the federal Parliament, they're not the Prime Minister. The Primary Minister is the Speaker of both houses of Parliament. The Primary Minister is the Prime Minister. You must understand, that's why you've got to get your Constitution and learn it. You will learn. You've got a problem with the Parliament. That's only their first problem. Look at page 791, the middle of the last paragraph. It says, neither the federal nor the state parliament are sovereign bodies. They're simply legislatures with limited authority. If they attempt to pass a law in excess of that authority, the law is a nullity and affords no obedience. They are limited by the provisions of this. Where do you find it? Page 935, 936 and 937. There's 3 separate areas of legislative authority. And we'll come back to that because when I get into the Australia Act later, you'll see what that section of the Constitution is all about and how it's explained. And that's an intricate part. So right, the Parliament, it goes to the lower house, the provisional laws. The lower house has to, 1, weigh it up against the Constitution, weigh it up against its ability to actually pass that particular law in that area, because they're limited. They're limited under section 51 to their ability to pass any legislation at all. Do people know that? No, they don't. They think, oh, the government can do whatever they like. No, they don't. They can't. They are bound by our contract with the Crown. Now, if it passes, if it's weighed up against the Constitution and it's found to be correct, they put it to the upper house, who goes through it and makes sure every little point is correct in law. What law? Against imperial acts. Imperial acts all come into this country subject to the Constitution. They're bound by the Constitution. The Crown is bound by the Constitution. It's a contractual agreement. We own it, we can break it. Well, we think we can. It's a big process, and I'll come into that one later too. It is a very, very binding contract that is almost impossible to break. There is only one way. But if it passes, the Chief Justice of the High Court then gets the legislation. He has to weigh it up back against that. If he says it all complies, he has to put his report on, goes to the Governor-General. The Governor-General then reads it all again. Big process, but it has to be perfect law. Now, the Governor-General is bound by Chapter 1, page 346 in the Annotated Constitution. It says not all laws of the Parliament are valid, but laws passed pursuant to, in accordance with, and under the authority granted by this. And those laws only are binding on the courts, the judges and the people of every state. All other laws are void. If there still remains an authority not granted to a Parliament, it's denied. It remains with us, the people. Why? Here we are, right up the top, above everything else. Because we're sovereign. Granted by common law and granted by the Constitution. We're sovereign. And if the law that's just passed through both Houses of Parliament and the Governor-General complies with this, signed off, that law then binds the Crown to a law made pursuant to the Constitution. So good old Queen's bound. The third tier of the Parliament, you've got the lower house, the upper house, the third tier is the Queen. That's why it has to comply with our constitutional agreement or our contractual agreement with the Crown. Then it's bound. It becomes actual law and can be enforced. And it must say on the Act, this Act binds the Crown to this law made pursuant to the Constitution. It must have the royal identifier, which is the Lion of Judah and the unicorn and all the finale goes in between. It must have it to be a lawful act. Not the two kangaroos, that's for the kangaroo court and the corporation. It is not law. Now you come back down to the estates. They have the same problem. The executive is the governor. He selects the Attorney General for the state. He selects 10 from the lower and 8 from the upper, because we had to correct our constitution and have it. So there's the problem with the first problem with our law. They put it together and it goes to the Parliament. State Parliament under Chapter 2, Subsection 2 of the State Constitution. The lower house, or Legislative Assembly, Legislative Council, and the Queen. The Queen has to be in every Parliament, which means, just like the Governor, must at all times sit in the Parliament. Otherwise you don't have the Queen there. Now, who's the premium member of the state? The Premier of the state? Who is he? The Speaker. Goes back again, it's the Speaker. It's the premier member. Federal, it's the primary member, because it's the primary parliament of this Commonwealth. He's a premium because he's a premium member of the Parliament of the state. You want to prove me wrong? Show me in the Constitution where I'm wrong. I can show you where I'm right. And it's all there in the annotated Constitution. That's why they don't want you to use it. Then you get into the judicature. The High Court. Who owns that? We do. It's ours. It deliberates on all decisions of all the state courts subject to that. Always subject to the Constitution. That is their job. We've got a federal court and we've got a federal magistrates court. These are 3 tiers. But even in there or in there, the 3 tiers, the courts, the judges and the people. We've got all these idiots sitting up here saying we're judges. No, they're not. They tell you in any document you get from a court they're not judges. Number one, they're justices in the High Court. They're justices in the senior part of the Federal Court. They're magistrates in the lower. Same in the state. Justices. They're justices in the District Court. But they're also, they have magistrates. But down here is another one of their major problems. And it's a very major problem. You go back to your statute of monopolies. You've got a magistrates court. What's a magistrate? Stipendiary magistrate, appointed by the Governor directly under the authority granted by the Queen. He was sworn in as a stipendiary magistrate. Do we have any? No. We lost him in this state about 1986. Courtesy of Brian Burke and his peanuts. They took it out. I was there in the police force. I saw what they did. I knew what they were doing was illegal. They wouldn't listen. So that's when I started turning on them and going against the laws that they were passing and the decisions of the court. Till then we had unbiased, principled, stipendiary magistrates. They actually have the same power as a Supreme Court judge in the Constitution. They're trying to say they don't, but they do. When they talk about decisions of the Supreme Court forming part of the common law, it does not. They are only binding on the inferior courts. The inferior courts are the district courts. They don't have authority over there because that's a constitutional court under imperial law. All the professors in uni are going to come and say, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Go back and read the Imperial Acts. Yes, I do. I took the time to read. They don't. They teach constitutional law according to a curriculum based on government policy. They do not teach that constitutional law. And a couple of professors will actually tell you, the one at UWA wouldn't have a clue. He reckons this Constitution is just a book that's not used anymore. That's right. Teach a book that's not used anymore. He's intelligent. That's why he's a professor. But go back to your judges. Who's the judges? We are. Judges is plural. Look at section 71 of the Constitution. Judges are adjudicators between the law and the people in the case that's before them. So now what do you got? Who are the peanuts sitting on the bench? Get your documents and read it. Quorum. They're there lawfully, if they operate lawfully. They don't, but they're there lawfully when they put quorum in front of themselves. What's a quorum? Go back to your legal dictionary. It's a person impersonating, not personating, impersonating a judge who is not a judge. It's a lawful personation. If you personate somebody unlawfully, you come under the Commonwealth Criminal Code, you're going to jail for 7 years. They're lawfully impersonating a judge. But what's their position? Foreman of the court. So they come on the courts. They're not the judges. The whole system's manipulated. You think the courts, the judges, that's the idiot sitting on the bench. No, he's not. He's the quorum. He is the court. Part of the court. But he is the foreman of the court. When you play up, he's the one that says you're going to jail for contempt of the court. That's his job. If you plead guilty to a charge, and we'll come back to charges in a minute, if you plead guilty to a charge, he can dish out a penalty according to law. He can say, because you pleaded to this case, I can hand you this penalty. He can't say, I judge you guilty. They do. But that statement is a fraud on you and on the court. He's not a judge. He's impersonating. His job is to hand down a penalty according to law for the particular thing that you did. No other reason. They'll tell you it's all different. It's absolute garbage. Go back to your Constitution. It's all laid out there. Page 701 gives you this in the constitutional sense. The bottom of the page. It's actually got the diagram in the annotated Constitution, so that people will be clear on the system that's before them. Now, the justices. They, because of the statute of monopolies, not one of the three courts can sit, being the magistrate or the stipendiary magistrates court, the district court, the Supreme Court. None of them can sit with a single judge. 1640, Acta Habeas Corpus, law in this country, complies with the Constitution, must be abided by. No single judge can sit in judgment of anybody. Why? You're deemed to be biased and you've got a Star Chamber hearing or Star Chamber court. It is a lie, it is a fraud, and people are falling for it. Because somebody who says, I'm next to God, is telling you you're going to do it. Why do you listen? Well, she'll be right, mate. Don't buck the system, just go with the flow. So they can sink it. Who put that out? The idiots in Parliament. It's easy to just go with the flow. Why argue? Why argue? Because I'm sovereign. And I'll argue with anyone. Until my last breath. You've got to wake up when you walk in that court. That's yours. What's the court there for? Serve you. How does it serve you? Not the way it's been served up to you. That's the biggest load of garbage out. When you go in that court, who are you? Are you the defendant? Or are you the accused? You're the accused. What's before the court? Allegation. You go in there and the magistrate says, come up, stand there, Mr. Glew or whatever. I'm not Mr. Glew. There's about 400 Mr. Glews in my family. I'm the second eldest of 14 kids. There's a lot. I am Mr. Glew, but which one? My name on my birth certificate is Wayne Kenneth. Go down a bit further, it says surname, Glew. That's your clan name, your family name. Really, when they address you, they can address you by your name, which is Wayne Kenneth in my case. You're not a mister. You're not a legal fiction. And that's all you are. We'll start off that for a tick, because that's something else I want to talk to you about. When you go in that court, you are the accused. When you become the defendant. When the prosecutor, which I did for 12 months, stands up and puts to the court every single piece of law that you've broken, every part of every offence you've committed, to the court. When that is there in front of you, how can you plead not guilty to something he's accused you of? Did you do it? If you did, when all that's put to you, you plead guilty. When all that's put to you, if you didn't, you plead not guilty. Why? Because you're totally innocent until it is proven. It is not proven still. Go to the Cable decision, CLR 189 of 1996. It's Commonwealth Law Reports, and it's accessed off the internet, and you read that. Paragraph 52. All courts are part of the federal judicial system with the High Court at its summit. Who owns the courts now? Not the state. Why are they manipulating them? For their benefit. But get back to the issue. It also states you have to be indicted. Every charge must be brought on indictment. Why? Because when you plead not guilty, you're sovereign. Who can find you guilty? 12 of your peers. Under Section 80 of the Constitution, even the High Court has failed to see that fact. Every single trial on every issue, unless you choose otherwise, must be by 12 of your peers. Every court must have two. When I joined the police force, the magistrates, the plenary magistrates, sat with one or two justices of the peace. They couldn't sit alone. They took it all out about 1986, same time as the Australia Act. Yes?
So is that criminal only or civil as well?
Everything. Everything. Because if you look further in the Cable decision, it says criminal and civil have to be brought before the court exactly the same way. The Constitution says so. And it must stay that way until we decide to change it. So only we can do it.
So for a speeding fine, you still have to have 12 sitting.
You have to have a trial by jury if you plead not guilty. Yeah, you do. It doesn't matter what they say. Section 29 of Magna Carta says you can't be deprived of your property, money, anything at all, without the lawful judgment of 12 of your peers. Does it say for pinching a wheat bits off someone's plate or stealing $1 million? No. Every single thing must be by trial by jury. Yes.
But they use a statute. They call it a statute when they try and tell you you can't have it.
Statute law is corporate law, and we'll come back to that one later, okay? Because you have to understand there's a lot of difference in the law we're using and constitutional law. I'll explain all the constitutional part for the first couple of hours, and we can have a break, and we can, after lunch, we can get on to the rest, because there's a lot, a hell of a lot. I mean, you could actually talk for days, but I try not to, because it's really complicated when you get into the rest of it, and you don't really need to know it.
Wayne, are you okay for questions to be asked like this, or do you want to have it up?
Yeah, because otherwise, when it comes to later on, you're going to forget them.
Yeah, okay.
So you can ask, anybody can ask, I don't care, as long as you don't put me too far off the track. But look, you have to understand, that trial by jury, whatever that jury decides, you're done. You can appeal it still to the district court and then to the Supreme Court. If it's criminal, you go straight from the stipendary magistrate to the Supreme Court. And nobody can tell you why, but anybody who studied the Constitution can. They all should go to the Supreme Court. The other intermediate court is to deal with offences over $70,000 in this state. and they deal with it up to 700,000. They can deal with minor criminal offences. They tend to deal with serious ones as well. But when the penalties come to a certain level, and I don't know what they are, I haven't bothered to ever look it up, but I believe it's in the Statute of Monopolies. If you bring up the Statute of Monopolies, the first thing the court's going to say, oh, well, that's nothing, it has no bearing on here at all. Well, how come in 1913 and 1917 we had a referendum to remove it? If we have one more, they can never ever bring it back before the people. You only get 3 stabs at a referendum. Constitutional law again. They have huge problems with what they're trying to do consistently in this country. And later I'll explain why all those problems arose, and it's right under our nose and we can't figure it, because we do not know our Constitution. I cannot cease to reiterate the fact you've got to know your Constitution. You've got to learn it. Because until you do, you're not going to understand what's going on. It's so engrossed in everything that we do. They've put it there to confuse you. Look at us, we're the smart ones. Yeah, sorry, you're the dumb ones. You think you can get away with it. You can to a degree. You can feel fooled most of the people all the time. Some of the time, you cannot fool them all the time. Sooner or later, we're going to wake up, and we're waking up in droves now. We're starting to apply our law. Now get back to the case. When the jury's found you guilty, they also give instructions to the judge on the penalty. Because the penalty no longer is subject to your guilty plea and the law. It's subject to what your peers think you should be punished for. If it's death, take them out and hang them. If it's a flogging, you go and get it. If it's in the law, of course. I'm not saying it is. The death penalty should be, because they had no power to take it out. But if it says 10 years in jail and they think you should do that, that's what you should do. But if it's a lesser amount that you stole, they want to reduce it all the way down to 6 months, or even probation or a fine, that is 12 of your peers. Why? Back to your common law, your 12 disciples. All goes back to there, the same as your 3 levels. Goes back to there, to the Trinity in the Bible. I'm not religious. You've got to understand the Constitution, read the Scriptures, you can walk out of there into the Constitution and understand it. That's where your knowledge comes from. So hopefully, mine was born with a weird brain, but don't worry about that. Whenever you do anything, go back to your Constitution and the system. Now, we're going to go all the way back to Federation and what took place. Because we had the lovely little act called the Australia Act come out in 1986.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
I've been in court for a lot. But anyway, when you go to court,
Yep.
you have a choice whether you want to swear in the Bible
Yep.
or whether you affirm.
Yep.
Yeah. So, because I think that the older courts are hypocrites, and most of them lie, including the judges and the justice peace and everyone. So, I follow the Christian view, but I refuse to swear on the Bible in a court because I think they're all hypocrites. But why didn't they swear on the Bible and why in court?
Well, that's a good question. I'll answer that simply. Before you can form a court in this country, you have to have the common law there, the Bible. You have to. There's several reasons why it has to be there. In the old times, someone walked behind the judge and held the Bible over his head because he was subject to it. That was taken out because people for some unknown reason didn't want it in there. The Constitution allows for an oath without the Bible. And the affirmation, 116, allows you freedom of religion. But that's not talking about Buddhism and all the rest of the thing in Islam that are against our country, and we're not going to get into that argument. I can explain it and show you exactly where if they don't follow our customs and ideas, get out. You've got an invitation to come here and follow it, you don't like it, get out. We don't want you. We don't need your influence or manipulation of our system. But coming back to what you said, all jurors must swear on the Bible, and they swear an oath, so help me God, so that justice will be done according to both the common law and the Constitution. That is the reason for that. But when you're in the witness box, you can either affirm or swear. That is your choice. Because you're sovereign, you make the choice.
But, you know, the thing is, you're saying that the decision, the final decision should be 12 of your peers.
That's correct.
But when you go to like a family court, for example, they have a counsel or whatever.
It's a Star Chamber hearing. The court is valid.
Yeah.
It's a single judge. This is the Family Court of Western Australia, and actually every family court is under investigation because they're operating as a Star Chamber. All the decisions are not made while you're there. And that's majority courts anyway. They're made while you're not there. Off the papers you submit. And that's the biggest hassle we've got. I'm in there, I know what it's about. I'm filing documents in there for a particular reason, but I know what I'm up against and I know how to fight them, and I will. But they're a different court, but they must. That actually has to come under federal law. And they try to manipulate the system. We've looked at it at length lately because of the way they do manipulate it, and they do. But I mean, that's a whole new study, and it is. It's a lot of study. And I'll tell you now, I haven't done a lot of study. I can actually read the acts and understand them because I've been in law long enough to do it. And if it's presented to me and decisions are, I can actually go through them and work out how they come at those. But they are unlawful. But when you go into court, answering your first question, it's your choice how you swear or affirm.
So, you know, I was in a court case recently.
Yeah.
Instead of the case, usually you go out the plaintiff goes first and they put all their evidence, and then the defendants come back and put their evidence in, and then the cross-examine the other side. For some reason, this case, it was all released around.
Look, I know what you're talking about, I know what your question is, and I'll come to that after, because it is actually what is taking place, and it's opposite to what it should do. That's why I'm bringing up the fact that when you go in there, you are the accused. You're not the defendant. So I will explain that. And what the Australia Act is what brought it about. The Australia Act is one of the most ambiguous acts ever put to this country and passed. We didn't actually get to see it or take any part in it. But it's made pursuant to Section 51, subsection 38 of the Constitution. It says, with the conferral of the Parliaments of the state, the Commonwealth can exercise authorities it had at Federation. How many did it have? None. Absolutely zero. I've already explained. The Australasian Council and the colonies ceased to exist on the 9th of July 1900 on the proclamation of this Act according to Clause 7 of the Constitution. Read quick and Garran, it says, but even if that was not so, there are only 7 legislative areas exercised by the Australasian Council and the colonies, and all 7 of those are contained in Section 51 of this Constitution. So where'd they get their authority for the Australia Act? They didn't have it. They used it, manipulated it, lied to us, and we didn't even bother to look at it. And then they put out an act in Section 5 says this act is subject to the Constitution, wipes it all out again. How stupid are they, and how even more stupid are we, because we didn't pick it up. We didn't bother to look at it, and we go and read it. They bring it up in court and you say, oh, you're the government passed it. They're not the government. They're the legislature. They must do what they do back here, subject to your Constitution. And they didn't. What involvement did we have in it? It made Australia a sovereign independent nation. Good luck with that. Where's it signed? Top left-hand corner. E-L-Y-A-B-E-T-H. I can spell a little bit. Sometimes I mess up, but that spells Elizabeth, not Elizabeth. And why would the Queen sign any document top left-hand corner? Go back to your imperial law. When she signs there, it wipes the whole act out afterwards. It's contract.
She's read it, but she doesn't agree with it.
But she wouldn't sign the wire bit. Who signed it? Bob Hawke, Prime Minister. Printed on there, Bob Hawke. Legal Fiction signed it. It's in capital letters. Who the hell is Bob Hawke? He wasn't the Prime Minister. Robert Edward Hawke was. Born to a Jewish father and an Aboriginal mother. And adopted out for the Hawke family. They wanted a particular breed of person. And they manipulated the whole breed, produced a little maggot. And that's all he was, a lying, manipulative maggot. Why do I say that? Because I had a run-in with him, Parkerville Amphitheatre, and I was supposedly had to guard this loud-mouthed little maggot, and that's what he was. And he was abusive towards me. When I told him to pull his head in, he said, "I'll have your job." I said, "That's all right, I'll take over yours. I could do a better job of running this country than you." And that's my introduction to him. He's an arrogant, ignorant little person. But getting back to the fact that he put that on there. Then you look at the writing in the top left-hand corner. They issued a letters patent. That's interesting. Letters patents are issued by the monarch, the reigning monarch. That's Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Not Queen of Australia and other realms. That's corporate law. Who told them we could have a queen? Did we? No. Do we have one? No. We are subjects of the Queen of England. She is the monarch of this country. She is not the Queen of this country. There is no such thing as the Queen of Australia and other realms. That is a corporate whore. There's no other word for it. It doesn't exist. It's corporate. Australia is a corporation registered with the Securities Exchange Commission. Its number of registration is 0000805157. It's all on there, go and look. Queensland is registered as a Brigalow Corporation, separate country to Australia. I'm not going to get in why, but it has a purpose. Every single state in this country is registered as a corporation in Delaware. Under LLP companies, limited liability, you can't touch them. You can't access this stuff anymore. We did for a while and we found out what they had, but there's no point going into it. The evidence is no longer available. They all are. Your police services or forces, whatever they like to call them, are creatures of statute. Where do they get their authority from? They don't have any. Every police officer now has absolutely no authority. The High Court ruled the DPP in New South Wales are employed under statutes and as such are creatures of that statute, not officers of the Crown. They did us a big favour because they turned all these things that are supposedly operating under the Crown into creatures of statute. They took out all the police force, so-called government. Every single thing is now a creature of statute. Good, they did us a big favour. We needed that so that we now had something to come back at them with, and we are using it. But getting back to the fact of the Australia Act and the letters patent, they issued a new constitution for Queensland under the letters patent. They then turned around and took the Western Australian Constitution and put it back in its place as at 1889. They just wiped out everything that happened. Because we've never gone back to that Constitution. Go on the internet, it's about 5 or 6 lines, isn't it? Something like that. It's not very big.
Doesn't even resemble our present day Constitution.
But if that letters patent was accurate under the Australia Act, why isn't it there in its entirety as at 1889, according to that letters patent? Who gave Bob Hawke the authority to issue a letters patent? Still signed Bob Hawke. Should have been Bob Dork, I'm all right. But at the end of the day, it is not law. It can't be. Letters patent issued by who? Reigning monarch. Who's that? Queen Elizabeth II.
Well, WA's got a very serious problem right now.
Well, we've uncovered it. We got that in the High Court. I'll get back to that. But
at their state Liberal conference, I got an emergency phone call. Please send the state constitution. They actually stood before the state conference saying that WA didn't have a constitution, it only had acts.
Yeah, well, that little piece of information comes from the person that thinks he's the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Western Australia, Wayne Martin. He put out a paper saying that Western Australia, the Western Australian Constitution consists of several acts, and one of them is the 1935 Supreme Court Act. Well, good luck with that. The Supreme Court is established where? Under the Constitution. It holds a special place in the Constitution. It's established under the Constitution, not under state law. It's established by the local government of a state. Interesting? Local government in the Constitution? Yeah, we'll come back to that in a minute. Very well it's painted there for a reason. Go back to what took place at Federation. We must go back to there because we've got to look at what Quick and Garran said. There's 7 legislative areas exercised by the Australasian Council. They are in section 51 of this Act. So what does section 51 subsection 38 really mean? You look at page 935, exclusive legislative authority of the states. No, it isn't. It's a shared legislative authority between the Commonwealth and the states. 936, exclusive to the states. And there's where your local government comes from. It's in there. It says on about the 5th or 6th line down, municipal authorities and local government. What's it talking about? The states have the authority exclusively to set that up. What is it? The state parliament. We, the people, are the state of Western Australia. Local government is our parliament. That's your local government. Now, when you look at what they're being trying to do with referendums, can the federal government legislate for a referendum in relation to local government? No. They can't hold or put up a referendum. It's exclusive legislative authority of the states. I'll just stay with that particular section. You need to understand what section 5138 says. Now on page 937, the exclusive legislative authority of the Parliament of the Commonwealth, contained in section 51. Now you have your 3 areas again. Back to 3. What section 51 means, subsection 38, when it says, with the conferral of the Parliament of the States, the Commonwealth can exercise authorities it has at Federation. What it's talking about, before the Commonwealth or the States can exercise any authority, when it's sitting here in your parliaments, they have to confer to make sure they're not crossing into each other's legislative authorities. Does that change the whole system? Massively. To a system under who? Us. And under them. Chapter 2 of the Constitution explains it all. It's no point, if you're not going to go away, get a Constitution and start reading it, and me explaining too much. You must understand what each section of the Constitution is talking about. Took me a lot of years to learn it. I don't know everything. I'm still learning. I pick up different things and I go, holy mackerel, that's a little bit different to what I've been saying. So next time I talk, I put that in there. You have to be pliable when you're working with the Constitution. It's 1,008 pages. I've got an excellent memory, but not that good. The people who wrote it were brilliant people.
So can I just say something? So what you're really saying is everything goes back to the original contract with the people.
Yeah.
Right. And that if anybody's manipulated that contract,
They committed treason.
They broke the contract. It's no longer.
No, they haven't broken the contract.
Right.
They've broken their oath of allegiance they owe to the people.
Right.
Under section 80, subsection 5 of the Common Criminal Code, they go to jail for the rest of their life. And if they've manipulated the Constitution, they come under 24A of the Crimes Act, life imprisonment.
Is it saying, my point is, if other people who are supposed to be operating the law, like a bank, right, has a contract with you, and they manipulate that contract after you've signed the contract with them, does that mean that they are now operating outside the contract?
Read section 51, subsection 2 of the Constitution. What's the bank doing there? What are they doing there? Read the Constitution. Why do we have a bank? Who can establish a bank? We, the people. How's it established? Under our contract. What's it financed from? Money raised on what? The assets that we had. When they built the Trans-Australia Railway, they created £1 million. They built the railway line right across Australia. The asset was worth £3 million. They've realised an asset of the country being the railway line of £2 million. The other one's been dissolved. Who can multiply money? Go back to your constitution. Us. Who does it for us? Supposedly our parliament. What do they do? Sold us out to the banks. Treason. They breached the oath of allegiance they owe to us. Every time they do something contrary to the Constitution, they commit treason. Treason can be minute, it can be huge. It starts, the penalties, life imprisonment. Even the minutest amount is life imprisonment. When a judge sits in a court and says, I don't sit under the Constitution, I sit under state acts and statutes. What you just done? Yeah. Because he is not complying with that. When he swears his oath to sit in our court, it's to that. Nothing else. Oh, don't worry, they go the opposite way. I'm the first one to mouth off with them. And they get upset, but too bad, I do it anyway. I couldn't care what they say. These people are criminals. Why are they criminals? Because there's something that I haven't told you. The little parliament. The reason it's got that on there, they're companies. Every single political party is a company. Didn't have to have 500 members to become a political party. That company has 500 members. Now I believe it's gone up to 15. I haven't checked it to 1,500. Yeah, but you don't worry about that. I want to keep on while I'm talking about it. These nice little so-called governments, which are actually parliaments, look at 44 of the Constitution. No person is capable of sitting or taking any part in any public office whatsoever if they work for a company of more than 25 people. What have I just said? Every single parliament created under the party system doesn't exist in law. Why do we still have it? Because we don't know.
What is the guarantee if Justin Keys goes to the court and he's liable in the court?
He's in contempt of the court. His penalty is anywhere from a $2 fine to life imprisonment, depending on the level of contempt. They walk through the door, they're going to jail for the rest of their lives. They're sitting outside the Constitution, outside the statute of monopolies. Why aren't we locking them up? Go back to the same issue. We don't know our law. We would love to know our law, but we don't. Because nobody has bothered to go around and tell everybody, so they pick people like me, that I'm the biggest hemorrhoid in this country at present. Good. I'm going to stay that way. I'm going to take razor blades next time, chop up a little bit, see what else I can get out of them. They are not going to take this country as long as I've got breath in my lungs. We have to stand up for our country. We're not going to do it any other way. You can sit here all day, you can listen to what I'm saying, you can go away and you can say, oh yeah, well that's well and good, what am I going to do? I'll go with the flow. Good, you've just given in to a pack of idiots. What have you done? You've become part of the treason they're committing.
You've committed treason.
Yeah, that's treason. You are committing it. Why? Because you put yourself there.
And you put yourself into the nation.
Yeah, into slavery. We're all slaves. I'm not. And they darn well know it every time I go in the court. That's why they give in to me so much, but I give it back to them. You can too. Why? Because you might like to see, you've got to grow some balls. And the balls are the tenacity to stand there and tell them they're wrong. Tell them, it's my court, not yours. You want to deal with me, you deal with me in common law under the Constitution. They say we're under state action statute. Good luck with that. I challenge your ability to constitute a court. Can you say it? Yes.
I challenge you to what?
Your ability to constitute a court. A court has to be constituted. chapter 3 are there. I will deal with chapter 3 in a minute. A bit later, not in a minute. They can't constitute a lawful court. I went in front of Master Sanderson, he can't even sit in the court. And I upset him because I told him I was going to arrest the peanut when he came in, and I really wound him up. And I said, before we go any further, I challenge your ability to constitute a court. You can't. The High Court's ruled you can't. The Constitution says you can't. He said, you just sit down and I want to talk to the state solicitor. I said, I don't care what you want to talk to. Answer the challenge before this court. He said, if you don't sit down, I'll have you thrown out. I said, good luck with that. I'm staying. You get out. He started waving his hands and yelling and carrying on like a total idiot that he is. He knew he had no authority. I just stood on the authority I have. It's my court. When I go in there, it's me on trial, it's my court. They thought they had me because they got all my cases that I put together over the last 8 years. I manipulated them. They was too stupid to see what I was doing. Every time they brought something against me in relation to local government, which they call local government, I put in sections of the Constitution decisions of the High Court, and because they just push it aside and deal with the actual issue. All fool them. Over 8 years I put every single thing I needed to bring this state down, but you couldn't do it by putting the whole lot in together because they would deal with it and rule against it, and then you'd have a hell of a job trying to bring it back in. Now what they did is they charged me with vexation, malicious and all the rest of the garbage they do to shut me up. But they come foul of section 73 of the Constitution, which is my right to do it. So that's why the court couldn't sit on it, couldn't deal with it in the High Court. So we filed for special leave to apply to the High Court, and they took it. To our surprise, so then we had to file the case. I filed the case. Well, they then got Bay Court to issue a seizure and sale order against my property. So I made application back to the Magistrates Court, had the original decision set aside on the grounds it's before the High Court. Went before the Magistrates Court, and he said, well, what evidence you got? I said, well, I got the application, because he tried to make out that my special leave to apply for an appeal wasn't granted. So I just said, I've got all the documents here, have a look at them. He read them and he says, whoa, I've never even seen documents like this. They're re-prepared. She didn't. She did a good job of them, and that was let us know that what we're doing is having an effect. He said, before we even talk to the lawyers for the other side, he said, I'm setting it all aside until after the High Court. We are starting to make an inroad into them. Now, the contents of that appeal, they prove no single law passed in this state since Federation is valid. They were put together under an unlawful constitution. All the evidence is there, constitutional law and decisions of the court. No decision of every court in the state has been valid or lawfully made since Federation. Have they got a huge problem? Yes. We've got another thing up our sleeve. Pengellies were manipulated through the court and found against by idiots in relation to local government. McKechnie, my little friend, abused Kay in the court. Really abused her. Totally insulting. Kay got upset. I just sat down and thought, you fool. We applied the first time in this state for an appeal in tort. A tort is a civil wrong committed against anybody. You don't have to prove it. You just have to show that they've done it. We had the transcript. We had the evidence. So we filed. Went in front of McClure, Nazareth Bus, yeah, sorry. They said, oh, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate he made those statements. Unfortunate the Magistrates Court did that. They just admitted they committed a civil wrong. They admitted to the tort. They did nothing about it. So what did they just do? Put themselves in the same place. Section 48, subsection 4 of the State Criminal Code. If you become aware of an offence, you do nothing about it, you become party to that offence. Yeah. So then we filed a tort, appeal in tort to the High Court, an application for special leave to appeal. And we were surprised. It come back instantly. We got it. We then filed the case. Now they've got 2 huge cases sitting there, which are going to wipe out basically everything in the state. Why? Because we know our Constitution. We don't know it all. We're learning. We know the common law. We're learning. You must know your law. You have to know it. It's not a case whether you want it. To do anything to stop these thieving, lying, manipulative traitors, you've got to know the law, because that's the only ammunition you've got against it. There is nothing else. If you don't mind, I want to stop for a minute. My throat's sore.
Excuse me, everybody. Yeah, so we're going to start again. Wayne's going to talk for about 2 hours now, and then he'll open the floor for about an hour for everyone's conversations, questions, etc. like that. We have some books over here that Wayne's got for sale. If anyone's interested, they're $38. Constitutions are $150. Wayne can send them to you, but you have to pay postage. And I just wanted to say, while we've got the chance, I've been really busy. I wasn't able to organise all of this on my own. And a big thank you to John. Yes. Get the flyers out, and thank you, John Beck. I very much appreciate it. Without you, I wouldn't have been able to organise it. So thank you. Over to Wayne.
First, I was asked, how do you remember everything? I'll just show you a little trick. When I was a kid, a person taught me how to learn. Very, very simple. You're taught in school to read and read and read and read, and you'll remember it. Absolute and utter garbage. You know yourself, you sit down with a book and you start reading, and you drift off into somewhere else, and you're thinking about what happened down the road and what someone else was eating and what they bought. And you go back and you've forgotten a lot. Your kids do too. You read until you get to a position where you're bored and your mind cuts off. But because you've gone in and you've been thinking about the other things, it's wiped it out. How many people read a book and they get 3/4 of the way through and they think, holy crap, I can't remember what I read last. You go back and try and look at it. Then you go back to the beginning and think, I can't even remember it. Why? Because you shut your brain off, and that boredom has wiped your brain. And your kids do the same. The first thing you do to your kids is you put the time table and the alphabet on the back of your dunny door. Because they like to get in there and twiddle their thumbs and all the other little things they do and talk and to themselves and sing. But they got it in their face. They memorise it when they go to school. It comes out in their head. Now when you want to memorise a book, what do?
Take it to the water.
You still get distracted, so that doesn't work. The best place for your kid to learn is in front of your TV. Sounds stupid? No. No. Because if you teach them, you read until the TV distracts you, close the book up. Don't worry about the pages you got to. Close it up. Sitting at the table, someone's talking. Close your book up as soon as you're distracted. Other 2 people might be talking, you're sitting there trying to learn. Sitting in your bedroom listening to music. Why? You're never going to learn. You might think you are, you're only going to take in a percentage. To learn, you read that book. When you're bored, shut it up, because that's when your mind's already shut off. Then the next time you open it, you go back and you read it, and you think, oh, I remember all that. It's all sunk in. And you get to a certain place, might even be the same place, and something distracts you. Shut your book up again. It works. I've done it. And I've done it all my life. And my son's done it, and he's in the top 1% of the top 1% of Australia, and he's 16. You can train your mind to learn up until the point you're bored. After that, you're not learning. You're wiping out what you've learned through boredom. It is right in your face. People don't think of it, and they're not going to teach you because they want you to learn to a level. Now you'll find by the time you get to the end of the TV program at the night, if you've read the whole book, you can go back and remember the whole lot just by doing that. Try it, it works. I told a young Aboriginal girl that was going to uni to do it. She rang me up a couple of weeks later, she said, I've read 2 books and I know what's in them. because she never went past the point of boredom. It's just a simple thing to remember. I was talking to some people before, and that is something that you can do and remember and learn, and it makes it easy. Now, getting on your favourite subject, local government. What the government's done, how they've lied to you, manipulated you and got you to vote in referendums for local government even though you voted against. Why did we? Local government is your state parliaments. Bylaws are your state laws. Learn your constitution, you'll understand that. Now, why did they do what they've done? They run them at a federal level as a plebiscite, a Clayton's referendum. If we accepted them, we've given the federal government control over state parliaments. Then they can wipe out the state parliaments and put this system of 60 or 80 councils running the whole of Australia, like the American states. They're trying to manipulate our system into the American system. That's why you find out a lot of your laws are going the way of America. We don't need their garbage. We can see what it's done to their country. It's manipulated, ripped off. They rip everything out of your pocket. They're doing a good job here, but they are still bound by your constitution. How do you stop them? Fight them on their own grounds. When the next referendum comes up for local government, you get as many people as possible not to vote at all. Not to vote. Go to your local MP and say, you're not going to do it. You can't. Here's our constitution. You don't have the authority to do what you're doing. They can't call a referendum in relation to local government. Page 936 of the Constitution. It's exclusive legislative authority of the states. How can the Parliament of the Commonwealth call a referendum in relation to an area they're bound by the Constitution to stay out of? There's a simple answer.
Sorry, I understand what you're saying here.
Yep.
And I totally agree. If everybody did that, that would be perfect. But
it won't happen.
It won't happen.
No, I'm coming to that.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Your fault.
Between now and the next time they call a referendum, they are going to. They didn't this time because they knew they'd fail, and the third time, knockout, they can never go back to another referendum. Same goes for removing the statute of monopolies. You've got to know your constitution. Go back to the same thing. Third time, you're finished. I don't envisage you just in droves from one particular area saying we're not going to vote, because it means absolutely nothing. But if we teach enough people, what I teach you, you teach others. You can go to your local MP and say, you're not having it, because our constitution bars it. If you do it, we'll take out a writ against you. And it's a simple writ in tort in your local court. They're going to throw it out. So you've got to be prepared and form groups. They're going to throw it out. It'll go to the district court, you'll go to the Supreme Court, and then you can go out of there straight into the High Court on the constitutional issue of the invalidity of their actual referendum. As soon as they start talking about it, do it. Tell your politicians, we're not having it. Go and fight them in their own place. We know from experience, you can go to Magistrate Court, District Court, Supreme Court, single judge in the Supreme Court, which is invalid, but they still do it. You've got to get in their system, but declare you're in common law under our law. They're going to say, oh, that's rubbish, you're under state action statute. Well, that's your opinion. But when they do that, they're giving you the way and the vehicle to put it in on a constitutional issue. Everything has to be constitutional. Because when you raise those issues of common law under the Constitution, you're putting your vehicle how to get into the High Court. Kay and Richard have been through it, they've seen what happens. They just wipe them out with all their garbage until a position where we could get them, and now we're going to wipe them out. You must always stick to your Constitution, bring up the invalidity of the courts and the inability of them to hold the court case. Once you've established that in the court, they know what you're going to do, but they're powerless to stop you. They're going to try manipulating you, declaring you vexatious. Vexatious in the Collier's World Dictionary says A court that uses an invalid or obscure act to hinder or annoy a defendant. Now who's vexatious? Frivolous, minor, obscure thing. The other one, abuse of process, using your constitution. How are you abusing the process? The whole system they're using against you, when you know what they're doing, know their terminology, you know you can eventually beat them. But you've got to be prepared to go from the magistrate to the High Court. If you're not, go and pay whatever you want, bend down, kiss your backside goodbye because your country's gone. That's the choice you got. You either learn the law, apply the law, or kiss your backside goodbye because you've got nothing, and you never will have. They are there to take everything you've got and give it to one group of people, the world banks. If you think it's any other way, don't fool yourself. Now your local government, so-called, you do what I do. Put the sign up. You don't carry the ranger by your throat and throw him in the car, you get fined for that. But they did it anyway. You don't push your car down the drive, I did that too. I built all my buildings without permits. My buildings have been there 13 years, they're still there. Numerous court cases, they're still there. When they wanted to come and see my buildings, get lost, maggot. I'm an engineer, they've been engineered by other people. I built them, I live in it, I stay there, get off. You're not allowed to alter the terrain of your property. Last count I had about 11,000 tonne of dirt where I staged my hill all the way down to the road. Everybody who drives past can see the monument to posterity. Why have I got it there? Because when they get in my face, get lost, did you? Send me a document, I've got a brilliant texture, it draws a perfect pig's backside. I send it back to them. Why? Because that's their authority. You're not contracting with them. The Water Corporation had their meter on my property. I told them to get it off, I didn't want it, the pipe was rusty anyway. If they wanted to put it on, I'd use it up the other end to feed the stock. I wouldn't drink the rubbish. They wouldn't do it. I give them 12 months, end of 12 months, I give them 7 days, and then I give them 24 hours, and I back my 4-wheel drive up to it, pulled the chain round, pulled it out. Beautiful water spout. They come out, they want to charge me, the cops come out, I said, they're a corporation, this is civil, go away. They never ever touched me. I put a memorandum on my property, so what? A couple of figures on a bit of property. When we went in the High Court, it's all coming off. Stop worrying about the consequences, start worrying about the consequences of your inaction. Stand up to your council. Do this on your property. No. Don't cut your trees down. They told me you can't cut down all the natural vegetation, which is black wattle and some other crap. I got a front end loader in clean 10 acres. Then I rang him up and said, oh, clean 10 acres. He said, what's your name? I give it to him. He said, piss off, I don't want to talk to you. That is the exact words. Why? Because he knew that I'd push it into the court. They have no authority over your land unless you give it to them. If you look up Figo versus the Northern Territory decision of the High Court, they bring out Challis's Real Property 3rd edition at 284, the paragraph is. It's an extensive paragraph. It explains fee simple. What is fee simple? Fee free. Fee or fine or favour. You cannot pay money to live on your property. Why do you? Because you're too scared or don't have the knowledge to do something about it. It's easy to go with the flow, do what Johnny next door is doing, because then you're not going to get in any trouble. Well, I like trouble. So I join the police force, you get in their place, create a bit more trouble, have more fun. Life can be fun when you give them the crap, believe me, it's good fun. When you make them squirm, it's even better. But when you read that Figo case, it also says nobody, not even the Queen, can enter your property without a warrant issued under the Crown. In 2006, Wheeler, Paul and Buss, 3 so-called judges in the Supreme Court, ruled that fee simple was incomprehensible. That was their ruling. Unfortunately, on the 6th that was the 1st of December. On the 6th of November, when they had me before the court, I said to Justice Wheeler, so-called, do you know what fee simple means? She said, yes. I said, then you know it alienates my land from the Crown. She said, yes. I said, and if I don't have a contractual agreement with anybody, you can't tax it. And she said, yes. And she came out as incomprehensible. Somewhere down there she lost her memory. A bit like Carmen Lawrence, she lost hers too. Poor people. At the end of the day, they can't tax your land. Is rates a tax? Yes. They ruled that on the 1st of December 2006. In general terms, rates is a tax. Section 51, subsection 2 of the Constitution says any exaction of money. For example, rates, levies, tolls, licences, etc. are a tax. Why do we pay them? They sneaked it in. Oh, if you just pay this, we can get all this done around the community. Rubbish. What are we paying income tax for? We're paying the council to fix the roads, do the footpaths. Interesting. You live in a housing estate, why are you paying the council? You already paid for it. Where do you own on your block? To the centre of the road. How much do you really think the council owns? Nothing. The High Court's rule, they hold it in fee simple because it's vested in them to do the work. They don't want to do it, and they'll lie, and as we found out, and manipulate the system to prevent doing the work. But they have to do it. They used it to stop the Mormons preaching in the street in the Northern Territory, so that case stipulated the fact that the council holds the land in fee simple because it's vested in them. They don't own it. They say they do, but they don't. We do. When an estate is put in, who does the roads? Developer. Footpaths. Developer. Power, water, electricity. Electricity is the power. Phone lines, sewage. All done by the developer. When you buy your block of land, who paid for it? You did. And a nice healthy profit as well. Why are you going to pay the council for the next 20 years who do nothing for the work that you just paid for? You're fools because you don't know your Constitution. You don't have to have a service you don't want to need unless you want. And you don't have to pay for it either. It's a tax on your land. Why? You're already paying income tax. And if you don't live there and you're renting it out, land tax. You're paying rates. You pay fuel tax to pay for the roads you've already paid for. They use 6% of it and give the rest to some idiot overseas who breeds dozens of kids and couldn't be bothered upkeeping them. Why? Because you're not using your law. Section 51, subsection 2 of the Constitution, the annotated Constitution says all money in excess of the Commonwealth's debts must be returned to the states in relation to head of population. Must be returned. Where's it going? Overseas. They're not the states. Why are we letting them give our money away? Oh, you get the same little pictures, poor little African piccaninnies there starving. They are. Where's your money going? Not there. Not there. I got a picture on the internet the other day of Jakarta. It's a fantastic, magnificent city. We don't have one city in this country that could even go a quarter of the way to looking like that. We're giving them billions of dollars a year in foreign aid. Why? We're giving them aid to buy ships and planes and everything else and prop up their military while they're spending their money building cities that we should have. Why? We don't know our law. We don't know it. We should, but we don't. That's why I'm here. To try and instill in your heads, you must learn your Constitution. You must teach your kids. As I said before, two entities in history gave their lives for us. Christ for our souls, the soldiers and military for our freedom. And we've slapped them all in the head and given them nothing. Because we haven't took the time, we're too busy watching football and TV and car racing, which I love, so I'm guilty of that bit. Instead of learning our law. We go to work, we're worried about a huge mortgage because we want this magnificent house. Instead of learning the law, which will take most of the cost of getting that house out of your pocket. It will not apply when you get rid of all the ridiculous charges, the ridiculous taxes. Richard could tell you here, the biggest majority of the price of a car is tax. Where does that go? overseas. Own a drivers association, you know where your tax goes, overseas. Sit down and work out how much fuel a service station sells in one day. Where is the tax off that? $800 billion a year the federal government collects in tax. They collect more than that in a day. That's what they put out. You go on the Australian Bureau of Statistics, they'll give you all these figures about how they get $800 billion a year and they can just run the country on it. What a joke. What a joke. We listen to them, we believe them, because we don't take the time to question them. We don't make our politicians rule for us. We allow them to rule over us. The Parliament doesn't make laws for us, they make laws over us. Why? We're sovereign. When did we lose our sovereignty? The first time we said, "That'll be right, mate. It doesn't affect me, so it doesn't matter. When it affects me, I'm going to do something about it." Then, "Oh, if you come around and give me a hand, I'll fix this," and as soon as you've done it, they're gone. They don't want to know you anymore. You give me a hand, but, "Oh, that's sorted." Don't worry about getting together and helping some other poor bugger. They're not interested. We have to set up groups, band together, and destroy the system they've set up. You cannot do it. I can't. I can give you some of the knowledge. If I'm wrong, tell me where I'm wrong, I'll correct it. I can only give you the knowledge. Anybody else that takes it up can give you the knowledge. But everybody must get off the backsides and go and do it. Our forefathers went out to another country and got killed. And we're sitting on our backside, smoking and drinking and watching TV, and our country's being taken off us, and that's what they fought for. Why are we doing it? Because we lack two things. The guts to get off our backsides and do something, and the knowledge to do it. And that's not because we can't, it's because we won't. We have to. Now, you have to get back to the rest of the system, and it's not a very good system in relation to your land. You don't own it. You pay for it, you spend all your life paying it off. You pay rates because it's yours. You pay tax on your money that you're using to buy your land. Come 65, you retire and you've still got a few grand. You take it out of your super which you've saved and pay tax on, and you pay that off. And guess what? Reality strikes, you don't own it. The council owns it. They tax it every year, make more and more money. They got so peeved off with me, they put my rates up for 2 years to $17,000 from 22.5 acres of land. They still didn't get it. Nor are they getting it. Hell will freeze over before they'll even see a cent. But at the end of the day, we don't own it. Do we own this country? No. Do we even own ourselves? No. When the Commonwealth of Australia in 1975 was created as a corporation and registered on the US Securities Exchange Commission, it owned nothing. How did it get what it got?
Used us.
Yeah, used us. Allowed us to give ourselves, our kids, our ability to earn, everything we earn until we die, to the corporation. We sat back while they took the SEC and created it, whatever they call it, the Water Corporation, a corporation, sold it to a corporation registered in Delaware, which just happens to be the corporation of the state of Western Australia, so they've got an asset. Go and have a look on the US Securities Exchange Commission. Here is our last census with all the extra people that they've allowed in the country. That's why they will never stop the boats, because they're increasing their asset. And you can't see it because no one's telling you. I am. What are you going to do when you leave here? Go and tell others? You need to tell them. You don't own any of your clothes. You don't own anything at all. You are a slave in your own country and you don't even know it. You're a slave to the corporation of the Commonwealth of Australia. It took possession of you while you were asleep or watching TV or doing all the other things you like to do. They did it because you didn't know your common law, you didn't know your constitution. You are not a slave. You've got to step out of that situation. I've done it. It was hard. I went in front of an idiot judge and an idiot, even bigger idiot state solicitor, and I conned him into admitting that my name in capital letters was a legal fiction. And when he did, I got out of a $31,000 cost order, because the cost order was issued against a legal fiction, which was my name in capital letters. Where'd it come from? Look at your driver's licence. It's on the driver's licence, not you. Your name is in capital letters according to the Uniform Commercial Code, which is a system of corporate bodies throughout the world of which the corporation, the Commonwealth of Australia, is registered under. Yes?
Just talking about that UCC, is it even worth it, just a waste of time, but shouldn't have to be dealing with UCC 1308?
Yes, I actually told someone earlier, I filed a document which is a declaration under UCC 1308. They accepted it for a while, and like everything else you file under their system, they manipulated it around and dismissed it, and they did. I got into the court on a few issues, got a couple chucked out. They will go and circumvent it because you're in their law. Then I decided, well, it's a waste of time using their law against them because they can manipulate it and they can change it, and they will. You go into court, you know they've got rules. Section 71 of the Constitution says for the legislature to give legislative authority to the judiciary is unconstitutional. It's unlawful, they can't do it. They give them the power to make rules. Is that legislative? The second they apply any force from any of those rules against the sovereign people, it becomes legislative. What do we do about it? Oh, you just follow the rules. If it's in the method of putting in paperwork, you've got to follow it. If you look at R versus Rogerson in the High Court, they can't refuse to take your documents because they're perverting the course of justice. When they wouldn't take my documents, I got on a plane, flew to Canberra and said to Simone at the counter, you're going to take it or I'm going to shove it up your nose. Look at your own decision. So she took it. You've got to be that assertive. It costs money. So what? You'll find if you're willing to do it, there'll be somebody willing to give you the money to do it. Or at least help you. I did. I didn't have the money to fly over there. I haven't worked for the last 8 years. I stuck a motorbike upside down into the scrub at 110 km an hour. That's why I'm no longer a cop. But at the end of the day, I'm glad I'm not, because I can do what I want. But you have to be prepared to go all the way. These people who sit at the counter in these courts, they come in there and they wield all this authority. Who do they get it off? Us. Who owns the court? We do. Why do we let them manipulate it? Because we do not know. We don't accept the fact that if that's sovereign and somebody says the only way you're going to do anything is if somebody gets it right on there. Now, is that sovereign? No. It's controlled by someone else. Any control over a sovereign person, that person is no longer sovereign. He who controls it becomes sovereign. You've got to understand, in 1898, in the Australasian Council, Isaacs said, at federation, any semblance of sovereignty is removed from the Parliament and rests solely in the people at federation. Big statement, but nonetheless a true statement. What I had here, who's the highest authority? Us. The Constitution, ours. What is the Constitution? As I said, the wheel of Paul and bus on the 6th of November 2006. The problem you have, the Constitution sets the parameters and our will into place, and you've got to abide by it. She said, oh, that's rubbish, we can do what we like. I said, when did you become sovereign? They said, the Parliament is superior. Oh, sorry. Bottom of page 702 of the Constitution, the last paragraph says, Parliament is not superior. It's not supreme. They put it in there, Quick and Garran put it in there, so that we would become aware that when Henry II made that statement in England, he was lying. His statement was a lie, because when you go back through all the acts, you go back to Magna Carta, any superiority of a parliament or the crown over each other was gone in Magna Carta. The people who put Magna Carta together had King John on the chopping block in the Tower of London and said, sign this document or I'll come to your head, maggot. We are taking possession. Neither became sovereign. The Crown, who the Queen represents, is the highest authority. It is the highest authority here. The Governor is the supreme authority in this state and must be obeyed. That's a statement direct out of the letters patent issued by Queen Victoria for the office of Governor. It is verbatim in 14 pages of the annotated Constitution in Chapter 2. Exact words. So they can't do away with that letters patent because it's in the Constitution. They can't change it. There's a lot of things. The Governor has to select judges. The Governor has to select magistrates. The Governor establishes a court. The Governor prorogues the Parliament. Prorogues break up ready for an election. Has to be prorogued by the Governor. How can he? He's part of the executive government. Malcolm McCusker is a good bloke. He knows the law, but refuses to do his job. Makes him a criminal. Good bloke or not, he's still a criminal. You have to understand, the world is full of good blokes, good intentions, good women as well, so we're not sexist. All have the same goal, they're there to rip you off, get what they can for them. How do you think they nick off out of this country and have overseas bank accounts and go live somewhere else because they've stuffed this one? They've done it by their criminal actions. What are we going to do about it? Same as we've always done. Oh, what's footy? Eagles are winning this week, or Dockers, or some other moron. Who cares? You can find out the end result if you really want to, but I can't see the point in sitting and watching them. But anyway, others do. But the point is, until we say, I'm sovereign, this is my property, get off it, get out of my house, come here with a warrant, or don't come. Plenty versus Dillon, very popular case. Paragraph 4, 5, 6 and 7. Nothing can be done without under the Crown. And it has to be an offence against the Crown, presented by the Crown, on a warrant under the Crown, by affidavit to prove a law made pursuant to the Constitution authorised by the Crown. Once you understand those and read them, it becomes apparent where you park things. When they come to your door, where's your warrant? Oh, we've got this. No Crown. How do you know it's a Crown warrant? First thing, the Royal Identifier. Not the two idiot kangaroos or the emu and the kangaroo. They're corporate insignias. Why are you paying attention to them? Because you've been taught they're the law. They're the boss. They're not. I had the state security come to my house. I worried about we setting up a group to start shooting everybody. What you go? Too old to go run around the paddock firing guns. They took all my guns off me without any reason whatsoever. They just turned up with a warrant and took them. I said to the guy, "Have you got a warrant for my arrest?" He said, "No." I said, "Do you intend charging me?" He said, "No." I said, "We'll get you back side and side. We'll have a coffee and talk about this crap." He recorded it all. I pulled out my recorder. I said, "You put yours on the table." He said, "How do you know I got one?" I said, "Because you're a cop and I used to do your job, so put it on the table." So he did. These people record you. Know you're going to get recorded. Kay and Richard just put cameras and recorders in their car. Do it. They're under $100, spend them. When you get pulled over by the police, leave your ignition on so they stay on. Record everything. When he comes up to your door and says, "Blow in this," he cannot just say, "It's a breath test, random breath test, blow on this." He must say, "We believe on reasonable grounds that while driving this vehicle, you have a level of alcohol in your blood." He's just accused you of committing an offence and you go, "I'm not." He's saying you were drunk, prove you're not. Why do you succumb? You can succumb, but put him in the picture of what he's doing. Tell him what offence he's committed. Yes?
Well, it's starting to become law because the fact that you took that to, say, a common law trial and you went before 12 years, most people would be brainwashed into thinking that the cops would have kind of a right to do that. So it's protecting their own safety. It's not come down to the law, it's come down to
No. Even if the jury found for it, you could appeal on the grounds it's unconstitutional. You have a right to travel under section 92 of the Constitution. Interrupt that right, a police officer must see you commit an offence. That gives him the ability to pull you over. Before he can breathalyse you, he must smell liquor on your breath. Alcohol doesn't smell. So there's a statement that alcohol, I smelled alcohol on his breath. Good luck with that. Nobody else can. It's liquor. You have to be able to recognise that. Or in another case, oh, he's got dilated pupils, all he's got is enlarged because he's tired. If it's dilated, it's right out to the edge of your iris. You would then know the person's on drugs. But this expert knew it so much and dragged the person out of the car and locked him up. A lot of crap. He committed about a dozen serious offences. We're dealing with that. But in relation to speeding, your nice little cameras, I was explaining to somebody else.
That would be me.
That's your road. The camera must be 3 metres off the road. They have to use a satellite to set that up at a right angle. Apply Pythagoras' theorem. This good old car here. Don't know if you know it, your reflective number plates on your car are there so the radar picks them up. That's what you can't pick it up off any other part. So they're bringing your cameras across there. So when your car's travelled 4 metres to reach the right angle there, then you've travelled 5. 20% inaccuracy of the camera automatically. A little mild calculation can never be accurate because that can be a quarter of an inch out, it's inaccurate. Reasonable grounds for dismissal of a charge. They knew it, it's been used, the magistrate admitted it, but the big problem at the end of the day was Section 98 of the Road Traffic Act says evidence of a camera or a speed recording device is prima facie evidence of an offence and cannot be disputed and is lost. It's Attorney versus the South Australian government. If you read there, they can't have a law that produces something against the Constitution or any other statute, imperial law. Statute, imperial law, not statute, state law. In other words, the Act is invalid. I was going to dispute it. I proved to the magistrate. He said I'm correct. I had to leave it because I got that much stuff on my plate now. I didn't want a stupid little thing like speeding. I just paid the fine. But I proved to the magistrate that I was correct. And it had a benefit because next time I went before the court, the prosecutor stood up and said, oh, he's lying to the court. He turned around and said, Mr. Glew's been before this court about 20 times and has never lied. You're the liar. Now get out of my court. Well, I got the result I wanted. I got a magistrate who believes and I go there to tell the truth because there's no other way. If you're going to lie, don't go there. They'll find out. You can beat the system by 1, being truthful, 2, being assertive, and 3, knowing your law. Above all, know your law. Because you're not going to beat them unless you do. You can take the councils to court every time they send you a bill. You're a big backside on it, you're going to get a summons, believe me. That's why I do a court. I like the summonses. It gets me into the magistrates' court, the district court, the Supreme Court, and then I can go to the High Court. And I did it over 8 years on stamp duty. Then they changed our electoral boundaries. I've got the letters patent says the electoral boundaries are so. The state constitution lays out the electoral boundaries. If they manoeuvre them, they've changed it. They don't have the power to change. So I use that to set up all the cases I want. I use them by irritating them to prosecute me, then I used it to put in sections of the Constitution which all came together to form the case that I had in the High Court. Am I a manipulative person? Yeah, I'm proud of it. I'm all doing it because I can manipulate their minds using mine. It's a mind game. They're playing it on me, I play it on them. I don't envisage most people have that ability. I can't help what I've got, but I use my ability. You've got abilities. I can pull a motor together and pull it apart and put it back together. So can Richard, but he knows why a particular thing went wrong. I don't. Everybody has abilities. I'm saying that because I know Richard's ability in a car is way better than mine, but I can do similar things. But even if you contribute it by doing this little bit in this way, and someone else does this, those little bits come to a big bit. And those big bits will defeat the criminals in this place. They'll defeat it. There is no other way you can do it. We walk around all the time and we think, Oh, you drive down the road and you've got your cruise control on, it's messed up, you get nailed for speeding. You get your speeding fine. 64 k's in the 60 zone, so you go and pay it. Why? Because you're going to lose more money fighting it than you are winning, and yet you didn't commit any offence. You get the Australian Standards Act, you've got to be doing 68 kilometres an hour before they can book you, and they can book you between 68 and whatever you're doing, because it's laid down in law. Your tyre diameter, the diameter of your tyre increased by the temperature of the road is all a factor in making you a criminal, which you're not. At 110 k's it's 123 before they're allowed to book you. They know that I know the law, so on the police computer it says when they pull me over it's only for a serious offence, and they're not allowed to talk to me, and they're definitely not allowed to discuss the law. Go look at the police computer, it says it. Because they don't want an argument, they can't win. And they don't want an argument that I'm prepared to push to the High Court. When you get that reputation, they're not going to fight you, they're going to be scared of you. Knowledge is a lot of power, it's not a little bit. We're told knowledge is power. Knowledge is absolute power. Because the more you got, the more you can wipe them out. The more you got, the more you can destroy their crap. Get back this country through your knowledge. You're not going to get it any other way. You just have to realise that everything you do, you have to question it. I had a good father who was abusive and a lot of other things, and I'm not going into that. But one thing he instilled in me, question everything. Because from questioning, you learn. And from learning, you gain the authority to do what you want to do. Because there's no other way. There is no other way. We would like to think there is. I'd like to find a very easy way to pick up a book and go, bloop, it's in my brain. But now I know I don't want half the crap in there. But you can learn. You can manipulate it. You can use it. You can do it for the benefit of others. You've got to learn that what you're learning is not only for you, it's for everybody. Down the road to you've got to earn a living, so you use that knowledge to get the money you need to live. If you get excess money and you want to give it away, that's your God-given right. And that's how it should be. It shouldn't be that foreign aid comes from a parliament who doesn't give two knobs about you. It should be all returned to the state. So we have the money, we decide, oh look at that poor little kid there, we want to give him some money, we're going to give him some money. It goes to him, it doesn't go to all Mission Australia and all that take 90%. It goes to where you want it. It goes to where it is needed. It is called our sovereign rights. I have to reiterate the fact you've got to push your civil rights, your sovereign rights. The fact that you are sovereign. The Constitution says, page 794, the Australian Parliament is not like the British Parliament, it's simply sovereign. 791, the last paragraph, neither the federal nor the state parliament are sovereign bodies, they're only legislatures, we live in an authority. It's there, we're sovereign. The whole of chapter 5 of the Constitution is about the states and the sovereignty of the people. Read it, learn it, be conversant and use that against them. Now, I don't want to get into a lot of technical stuff. I said I was going to talk for a longer time. I prefer if people start asking questions and I can go into it there. That way you will get at a level where you want to understand. Otherwise it's going to get too technical. Yes.
I was actually going to interrupt you. 3 books. Absolute must first reads. What are they?
Well, the first 2
Is
is the Bible, King James,
Yep.
and that's all New Testament. You need to learn to be conversant with that, because when you are, you understand sovereignty. The second one is the Commonwealth Constitution, the annotated Commonwealth Constitution, Quick and Garran. Eh? No. The one on the internet was put on there by a Labor Senator, and if you cross-reference the page numbers with that, you find out how many pages they've actually taken out.
It's about that big.
Yeah. There is one which is almost that big. It's got about 27 pages missing. This happens to be the one you want. Just happens to be that way. I don't know why. They wouldn't tell lies. They're politicians. They wouldn't tell the truth. It'd be more to the point. The third book is actually not a book. The third thing you need to do is get somebody good like we have, Richard has and all that, to go on the internet and go through, with the knowledge that she's gained, go through the decisions of the High Court and pull out all the ones that pertain to the general issues in front of you.
And what's that is one of the cake?
That is one of the most important things, because you've got your common law, which is the Bible. You've got your Constitution, both of which are very important. Decisions of the Constitution of the High Court are really important. You've got to understand, but the High Court makes mistakes. That's why you've got to know your Constitution. You can pick them up on it. You can put it in an appeal that a particular issue is wrong. You can't put the whole appeal because it's the last appellant court. But you can break down what they said in relation to a particular issue by putting it in a larger issue. And then, I'm not going to get really in detail of that, but if you have a particular issue that they've ruled wrong against and you know it's wrong, if you read Knight versus Knight, Codas versus Codas, and something else in relation to the validity of a registrar sitting in a judicial function, there is 3 lots of decisions. The first 2 are full of mistakes. The third one was put in a different way, and they corrected it in the same way.
What the SAC court, what the SAC court, like the tribunal, what do you think about SAC courts? What's just meant to be recently? The tribunal court.
Tribunal court?
Yeah.
Well, this is where they have the biggest problem out. When you read Forge versus HCA 44 of 2006, the High Court ruled, and that was Justice Kirby, no judicial function can be carried out within the Commonwealth of Australia except under the provisions of Section 71 through 80 of the Constitution. That's Chapter 3. And Chapter 3 of the Constitution, they must abide by. In fact, if you read that decision, it's a brilliant one. Kirby really went into the provisions of what a Chapter 3 court is. If you go into Lane versus Morrison, HCA 29 of 2009, paragraph 24, I think it is, says a court is a gathering under the sovereign. And if it's not under the sovereign, where is it? It's nothing. So if they're sitting under state acts and statutes, are they gathered under the sovereign? No, there's corporate law. It explains the whole lot. See, tribunals, if you read Lane versus Morrison, it actually explains the tribunal and says they have no authority unless they sit under Chapter 3. My ex-wife was the president of the basketball club in Geraldton and involved in the soccer club. I got both their constitutions and ripped out all the penalties. Because how can FISA or whatever the idiots are overseas that run the soccer dictate that you've got to charge someone a penalty, a monetary penalty, if they do something wrong? Our Constitution doesn't allow it. If we allow it, we're committing treason against the rest of the people in this country. Only a court can decide. If you come across a law that's invalid and you're before a court in relation to a law that's invalid, you go to the beginning of the last paragraph on page 791. It says not only the High Court, but every single court of competent jurisdiction can declare a law of the Commonwealth of the state to be invalid by transgressing the Constitution.
Well, one way the odd transfer, you know, as people get older and people's estates become, they want to come in and minister your estate. And they're doing that with a lot of families, with older people.
Not here.
You have medical conditions, say like their, their mind's starting to go a bit, like getting Alzheimer's or whatever. And then you get a dispute in the family. One person who doesn't like what the other rest of the members, the siblings, are doing, then the state comes in and they appoint an administrator for the sole reason that they get a big slice of the estate.
What have they just done? What have they just done? They could put that person in total slavery.
That's what.
Did it go before 12 of their peers? So if the people around them were knowledgeable enough, they could oppose that on the grounds the jury never made the decision, and they are the only ones who can.
Well, you notice they'll do it. They do it with the states that have got value.
I'm well aware of what they're doing.
If there's
That's
a
what I'm
house
talking
that's not
about.
got value, they won't bother. But
Yeah.
if it's a house built in Applecross or somewhere like that,
Then
and
they'll
the
do it.
land is worth 2 million,
Yeah.
they come in.
Well, my property's worth 2.9 million. They'll do everything to manipulate that. In fact, my ex-wife is trying to manipulate it out of me now. It's not getting it. It's got to do with how much knowledge you've got and how far you're going to push it.
You've got to push the constitutional.
I bought my property for peanuts. That doesn't matter. I bought it 16, 17 years ago for 145,000. The price went up to 4.9 million. Now it's on its way back down again. That happens. You've got to do that. But at present, she wants to sell it for 700,000. Well, hell will freeze over before she'll even get a signature on a bit of paper, because then I won't worry anymore. There's no hell to go with. I don't care. She's just not getting it. You've got to have the knowledge and the ability to just turn around and go, away, I'm not doing it. But in your case, in relation to them just taking over someone's property by declaring them insane or whatever,
Not being able to administer their own property.
but they can't do it without a trial by jury. It goes
When
back.
it's dispute, they think, well, we're the state, we can come in and administer your property.
That's right, but what you've got to understand is what I said earlier. They are alleging that you can't do it. So when they do that, you then file in the court, and this is something I'll explain. Talk. I did talk to some people and I said I would bring it up, and I will bring it up now. A tort is a civil wrong, and what you're talking about is a civil wrong. They're not doing anything according to law. They turn around and do it. A tort doesn't have to be proven, not the same way as a normal case. And I'll go back to where it started. And it was, I think that was one of the King Henrys too. His serfs were going over next door and knocking off the cow and eating it. So he knocked them off, and he decided, well, hang on, I'm losing all my serfs, I need workers. How can I fix this? So he turned around and said, you steal one cow, you give them back 4. And then he created laws of tort. And it come up through the system, and it's massive. Google tort and see how many cases come up, thousands.
Every high court decision is based on a tort.
Yeah, because it's a civil wrong committed by the state against the sovereign people. That's a tort. Now, when you look at filing a tort, you can put in a normal claim in a court in tort. So what? Why would you do it in tort? 2 things. First thing, if you've been through a lower court and they committed a civil wrong against you, you've just got to put the transcript in there, there's your evidence. Secondly, if it cost you 50,000 in a lower court, you get 200,000. 4 times what they committed, plus your costs. That's how you explain your tort laws. It is so simple. Do you have to prove it? No, they did it. Somebody comes over and smashes your window. They've done 2 things. They've committed a tort, they've damaged your property. Which one do you want to pursue? You want your window fixed, you want money for it, you go to the court, you're not going to get it. They want to fine him. Compensation? Oh, he hasn't got the ability to pay that, he's got to pay a fine. So who's lost? You. How do you get the money back? Don't worry about going to court. File a tort against him for breaking your window. If the window's $100, you're going to get $400. What's the cost to put him in the court? That's what tort's about.
And, sorry, how are we spelling this tort?
T-O-R-T.
And it's always in inverted, actually right?
It's always in inverted commas. It is. Manipulate my beautiful pen.
And you must always write it like that.
Always write it like that, because it puts you into tort law.
And normally after I've used it, like I've just sent a letter to our local shire, and I have threatened them with a tort, after it in brackets I put a civil wrong.
Yep.
So that there is no
So your tort-
misunderstanding of what that tort means. And that's really important. Tort is a civil wrong.
Look at that, I spelled it without making a mistake. I'm glad for an old fart. Anyway, That's what you got, yes.
New question, High Court decisions, and
Yes.
in particular with the ATO.
Yes.
How would I find them? I just...
You know what year?
I know.
If you've got a general idea of the year and you know the people involved, you just type in someone versus somebody and that year, it will come up. But you still need sometimes quite a bit more info. When it involves the ATO or any government departments, they tend to want to hide them a little bit.
Wayne, the simplest way for you to find any High Court decisions,
Ask the brain.
type in High Court decisions in your Google bar, and it will drop down and you go into judgments and pronouncements. Go into that, it'll bring up another window and you'll see it's under, there's a blue thing in the middle of the writing. Hit on that, it'll open it up into another one, and you've got all your years of your High Court decisions. Hit on any one of those years and it brings up every decision for the year.
That's going to be a lot.
I've been through every one of them, every year.
See?
So if
I don't have to do it, I've got to
you
manipulate that.
But if
She's
you-
reasonable, isn't she, Rick?
If you've got the year or a rough idea, just hit on that and it's easy. You just scroll down. If you find the one that you're looking for, double click on it and it'll open up your High Court decision. And then right up in the corner, left-hand corner, it's got convert. Hit the arrow and it'll drop down. Hit the PDF file and it will download it and you can save it straight to your computer.
With the High Court, to control the High Court. She's controlling all the courts, and the parliaments are using Supreme Court rules and the registrars. That's why you've got to get into those decisions, because there's decisions of the High Court block the registrars doing anything. You've got to know what they are. That's why it's imperative that you do follow those three things. You need to be conversant as much as you can with decisions of the High Court. You look at Lippahar versus the Queen in 1999, paragraph 54, I think it is. The decisions of the High Court, once published, become part of the court, common law, and they're binding on the courts, the judges, and the people of every state. It also says the Supreme Court decisions do not form part of the common law, even though they're binding on the inferior courts. The only inferior court is the district court. The magistrate court, as I said, it's the dependentary magistrate. It has the same power as the High Court in the Constitution. They're trying to deny that. They'll hide it. But when you read it, you'll find out that that's a fact.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, how can you get any constitutional law decision out of the High Court if it is a corporation and they're employees of that corporation?
It's really irrelevant, because if they don't uphold the Constitution, then the government, and they go that way of not upholding it, the government's going to wipe them out, and they know that, and they like the 500,000 or 600,000 a year they're getting paid to be there.
They're already not following the Constitution by registering the High Court as a corporation.
That is so,
So
but
the government's not doing anything about that and hasn't done for a long time.
well, that's exactly
The
right.
government started that process.
I take on board everything you said, and I have this discussion quite often on the internet, and they say, where do you go? And I say, yeah, where do you go? You can't go to the international court because they go, you're part of our corporation. So you've got to go to your court. They are trying to conceal that they are corporate. While they're concealing it, we have the ability to put our law in their face and make them abide by it. They walk away from it sometimes, what are you going to do? But if they adhere to 50%, you've won 50%. 50% is better than no percent. So by doing that, we are putting our stuff into the High Court. If one day they go against it, what can you do? I understand what you're saying, but then comes Clause 61 of Magna Carta that allows you to do whatever you like to them without any recourse in law.
How do we revoke that? Or invoke that, sorry.
You want to do it, you know, like someone and you've been through the court in relation to what they're doing, get the sword and whack their head off. It sounded drastic, but that is your authority. You wouldn't do it. As I explained to the people in Tasmania, the best thing you can do as a group is just turn up.
I think you knew it was one.
No, I do not condone killing people.
No.
It's against what I believe. But what I'd like to say, and this is your authority, And we've discussed it because a lot of people in the group want to say, oh, we'll go and shoot them, stab them, do whatever. The first time you shoot one, they're just going to declare martial law and anyone pops up, they're going to bang off.
That's right.
So, as I used to tell the cops when I actually trained young cops, when you walk out of the station at night, you don't have your baton, you don't have your handcuffs, you've got half your uniform, you don't have your guns. The way you behave in front of the public is how the public's going to treat you when you're out there. If you live in a town, you're a fool. I got the respect of the kids by pulling their cars over, something wrong and giving them a big list. Those kids told me what I wanted to know and I fixed a lot of the crime, but above all, the cop has to be honest. And I pride myself in the fact I was honest. I wouldn't prosecute anyone if I didn't have the evidence, but I didn't have to worry. I could walk down the street. In fact, some of my best friends used to be criminals. And they come out of the can, I grabbed them and got them a job at Midland Brick packing bricks. They earned a lot of money, bought a house, married. They've got good jobs now, but that's a cop's job. Not this crap that runs around dragging people out of cars, treating them like crap. That is not the police. But getting back to the situation, the system has to be changed back, and we can do it. But under Clause 61 of Magna Carta, I told everybody, the only thing I could envisage you doing is find out the address of all the politicians, all the cops, everything, and when they go out, drag the stuff out and burn the houses. Because there's no recourse in law. Sure, they've lost their house, but you've taken off them what they're taking off you. That's what Clause 61 is for. It's not to go and beat someone up, whack their head off or do anything like that. That is against everything I believe in. But it is your lawful right. So Winston Churchill said, God help us if the people invoke Clause 61 of Magna Carta because that is their lawful right. Magna Carta is just as strong today as it was when it was first done.
Actually, Tony Abbott has been referring to Magna Carta quite a bit.
Well, when you go outside the new Parliament House, there's Magna Carta Walk, Magna Carta Drive and Magna Carta Park, and all of it's there on the wall.
Tony Abbott.
The big monument that John Howard opened up.
I'm surprised he didn't even know what it was.
Oh, he knows. There's actually a lot of speeches on the net if you read them.
Yes.
On Magna Carta.
You said earlier about the police coming and taking your guns. What happened in regards to that was that why do they come and take your guns?
Well, they didn't give a reason. They had a warrant to take my guns. They wanted to take my crossbow too. They didn't give them that.
Yeah.
Because I'm a Commonwealth public official. They can't say I'm not respectable enough to hold it. But they took my guns because they used the power under the Police Act. I could have physically stopped them or not given them to them because they weren't at my house at the
Did
time.
they revoke your gun licence?
Yeah, they did the whole lot. But
Why?
I put... Huh?
Why? If you've got a gun licence, what would they take?
I don't know. I'm fully qualified to use any firearm around, but they took them anyway. Look,
Because they thought you were going to invoke.
Irrespective of what they thought, I think they thought we were organising a gang to get together and start shooting people. I sent them a letter advising them if they destroy my firearms, I'd sue them, because one of the guns been in my family since 1824, and it's worth a lot of money. They are holding them. They did say they destroyed them. When I warned them, they wrote back and said, oh, it was a mistake. They got it.
Yeah, I'll bet. One of them have got it in their gun cabinet.
Well, it was worth over 200 grand, so probably.
What?
Yeah.
So did you do anything to revoke your licence or fight it or anything like that?
No, I just put them on notice that I'm going to when I deal with the issues I got before the court, which is invalidity of all of them, including the police. So
you will be fighting the charge that they're taking your firearm?
no, if I win in the High Court, they're going to have to give them back, plus compensation. I'm not in the business of just succumbing to half-wits, but you've also got to keep your eye on what you're doing. I spent 8 years putting a case together. I couldn't afford to deviate and fight for a gun. The $200,000, if I ever got it, which I more than likely wouldn't, I would have destroyed everything I've done so far. The most important thing to me is not for me. What I'm doing is for everybody, because what's before the court, like Richards and Case, is for everybody.
So do you believe that that was a move by them to make you trip up so they have more validation?
Also, as them sending me a letter, come back and the police force will take you on 3 days a week, free car, 2 ranks higher than you were, to work for us. They manipulate me. They put me back under their control. Get lost, idiot. I could use the money, but I'm not that way. Not that way. I could have succumbed to it. I could have used the money. Everybody knows I've got bugger all money. So what? When I want it, people give me some. I live basically on donations. And I'm not disgusted in that. I'm proud, I'm humbled that people do that because it enables me to do what I'm doing to help people. And that's why I'm doing it. That's really why I'm doing it, to help people. Because my father went into the army 3 times. 15, and so they kicked him out because he was too young. But he was in there for about 10 months. 16, he did the same. He went back in at 17 when his father bothered to sign the documents. 3 times he went in for this country and he didn't have to. He put his life on the line for me and for everybody else. So did your forefathers. What are we doing to back up what they've done? Besides nothing. Nothing. Most of us are doing nothing. I realised I went to the police force to do something. To do a job that I should have done or others could do. I had the abilities. I mean, I've been to over 1,000 autopsies. I've been to thousands of fatal accidents. I have got the physical capability of doing that without it affecting me greatly. Kids always does, and I don't give a hang what anyone says. You see a dead kid, it's the worst thing you could ever see. But I was given an ability. I've got a good memory. I can retain things. I can learn things. I can go into situations that are deadly dangerous, and I'm not worried about it. So it's just like a mechanic. He can go and do a particular job. I did a particular job. There's thousands of people can't do what I did. I've got an older brother takes one look at a bit of blood and flakes it.
How long were you in the police force for?
17 years. And I wouldn't be in there because half the cops do what they do now. I would shot them. Because it's criminal. You know, that's right. You know, I'm the first one to admit, I put myself at risk a lot of times. I've driven 200 kilometres an hour that far off the back of a car and pushed it until the motor blew up so that I could arrest the idiots in it. I was on Rick the other day, I followed the car all around Belmont and pushed it into a fence, had 5 kids in it, it was a stolen car. What are you going to do, let the kids die? No. You put your life on the line for those kids. That's what I did. And that's what everybody should do. I said to a friend not long ago, if I lay stark naked in the middle of my paddock, God forbid anyone see, and stone level the broke, if I put 100 criminals behind bars, I've achieved more than most people would even think about doing. So what I'm doing here is teaching you so that you can go and do, not lay naked in the paddock unless you do that cheeky stuff. And I wouldn't do it, I get too badly sunburned, but at the end of the day, we need to be prepared to go all the way. How far are you willing to go? All the way? Or just sit back and say, no, it's footy tomorrow, bugger everything else. You've got to put everything into it to get everything out of it. And that's what we're doing. And that's it.
When you're choosing your battles, that's what you were saying too.
Oh, what?
Choosing your battles.
Yeah. I do choose my battles. And
yeah, like, if you give one a battle for the
die, I'm going to do everything I can to do it. If that means I'm going to die because of it, boo-hoo. Eh?
Because you recognise that as a better system. That it was a good system.
You read the Bible and you've got total freedom. You can do what you like as long as you don't interfere or hurt anyone else. What better system could you possibly have? What better system could you possibly have? There isn't. We need to recognise that we're human beings. We need to recognise we owe a debt to our kids. We bring our kids up, we give them the best education, and then we let them go out into a world that we could have corrected. Have we failed our kids? Partly. And we have. We have failed our kids if we don't do it. I've got 8 kids for 2 marriages, 4 boys and 4 girls. I would still be married to my first wife if she didn't sleep around on me. Product of the police force. I understand that. The second one just don't want anything more to do with me. I can't fix that. So she's gone. I have to pick up the pieces. I found somebody else who loves me for me. And I'm going to work with that. Anybody around me who doesn't like it, boo-hoo, get over yourself. I couldn't care less. I know what I'm doing. I know what my mind is. I know what I want out of life. I know what my goals are in life. That's why I stick to them. If people don't like it, boo-hoo. Couldn't care. That's what we do.
Is that why you blame your kids for doing the things that the parents put in place
I don't blame my kids for
No,
anything.
you know how people say, like,
Yeah.
the kids are doing this, or doing drugs, but it's because of these people that gave them and put that stuff in there for them to
Well,
go.
I'll give you a perfect example. Last night on my wife's Facebook thing, she did everything, including one of her girlfriends, and said, shoot me. And my daughter rang me up when I went to bed and told me she loved me. It's better.
Yeah.
Why would I even think my daughter wasn't brought up properly? Yes, she was. Because she gave me what my ex-wife couldn't or no one else could. She loved me.
Yeah.
Irrespective of what took place. She could see what took place. That's the rapport you've got to have with your kids. Sure, it upsets you when you get abused and they put all this crap on there, they're going to do this to you, you've done that. I know I haven't done it. I was going to go on their case that don't do it, so I didn't. My sister did, and give her what for. You find out when you are doing the right thing, others will step up and do the things you can't do. And if you are in an area where you can't work and can't correct the system, others will come along and fit in with you and work with you. That's what I'm saying. We need to all get the knowledge. We can work together. We can destroy the corruption in this country. It's not only about relationships, it's about everything we do. Everything.
Until you actually get into the system,
Yeah.
and I, for one, was oblivious.
Yeah.
I didn't realise how...
What rights we have.
No, I didn't realise how corrupt the system is.
Yes.
And when you get into it,
Oh, sorry.
you get more corrupt. You get
Everything going on.
more corrupt.
Wayne, I've been listening to you talk, and it's really the first time I've ever listened to you, and it's very interesting. And it's interesting from the angle that, years ago I remember there was a book called The Lucky Country, which was Australia.
Yeah.
And I think what most Australians haven't realised that luck that we thought we had is actually gone. And somebody like you, if you were to write why it's gone and talk about it under your name, because you're obviously very passionate, you could show the people that this country, what we thought it was, it's really gone downhill. And because when you really look at it, you go to Perth, you go to trouble with the bank, as you said, or you didn't say that, it's been said there. The bank managers lied to you, sign that you look at the back, they're just about to take the mortgage back in 14 days. I've rubbed shoulders on that rubbish. Through my problems with the family, which has cost me millions, then I fought foul with some banks and they just wipe out the assets. Doesn't matter that you lost $2 million, as long as they get back there, they've undervalued sales.
If you lose $2 million, they get $50
So
so
your
you have
company's gone down the tube. The liquidators only, they want to clean up any balance that's left, they just clean it all up for the last penny, and you get zilch.
Yeah, that's right.
And so they've got a system where the judges cover all this stuff. So is it a lucky country that we're living in today? All I know is, when I was a kid in the 50s and 60s, everybody was more friendly to each other, we all tried to help each other. If Joe Blogs was pulling out potatoes, we'd be out there helping him, then he'd come over and help you. There was a different outlook between everybody. Today, it's St. George's Terrace is full of crooks, liquidators, bank managers, lawyers, and so on. And all that, they see you having an argument with her, well then they work out that they've got income for 2 years and they wipe you out first. And this is the mentality of this country. With wealth increasing after the war, I think this country's gone not lucky country, but down the gurgler.
Yeah, well, to a degree, I agree with what you're saying, but I'll put it this way. When Pedro Kofic and the Sneeze claimed this country as a great Southland, the Holy Spirit in 1605, and Torres, his lieutenant, put up the flag and claimed it for God and country, he put in place a system. We got the system under our common law.
Yeah.
We need to get the knowledge to take the whole lot back to there. It's there.
Yeah.
It didn't go away. The manifestation of that, what you're talking about, went away because of greed, and you know it's greed, more things, everything else, because we're a society of greedy, useless peanuts who can't think that the person next door is starving. Why aren't you over there helping them? Some of them don't deserve it, and there's good boot in the backside, but the ones that do, why don't we help them? Because we've lost the compassion that we were born with and brought up with. And I'm 66, I was born in 1948. By who? I'm still physically fit. And I keep that way because I can help people. And I'm going to keep doing it until I die. We need to wake up and serve our country. Ourselves, obviously. But our country as a nation. We've lost that. We've lost what our forefathers fought for because we're greedy, ignorant and self-centred. I was the same. I had to realise what I'm doing I could do in a different way and help people. So now I'm doing it. Having an accident, you come to a realisation, well crap, you could be dead. I broke that many bones, I didn't know which one were in one place. But I crawled up out of that paddock and staggered up on the road, ended up in hospital. 3.5 days later I got out of there because as long as I was mobile, I was healing and I healed up pretty quick. I don't have the results of any injuries except for a mangled shoulder, which I can use properly. I can do that, and most people can't with a shoulder injury. Because we have the ability to do it. Our bodies have the ability to mend. It's in here. We have to get off our backsides. We have to look after everybody else. Rick does, Kay does, you do, Sam does.
And what this country's forgotten, you normally look after your own before you go off and look after overseas.
Charity starts here. Go back to your common law. It starts right here.
Your mind. Your people.
Yep.
And if your people haven't got the hospitals or this and that, what are you doing overseas doing this and that? The surplus funds can go there because they're surplus funds.
Yeah.
First, fix the charity at home.
Yeah.
If you've got a strong home, then you can afford to go out there.
Sure.
But it seems to me that the politicians want to win brownie points, on an international level, and they try and give money here and get this. Is they just give them nothing? It's not their money to give.
No, to tell us the problem, it wouldn't be a very big problem because we could boot the politicians out. But when they sell our whole country out to foreign nations as corporations, that is where you've got to get that back. Now we have to take this country back. And I envisage, we don't do it inside 10 years, we don't have a country. Our kids have got nowhere to grow up in.
You're right, and I think what's happening in this country is the system is keeping the people dumb, and if you keep people dumb, you control them. The minute they understand, you can no longer control them and ask them questions.
Well, the biggest control comes from banks. As Rothschild said, you give me control of the money of the country, I control the country. And that's a fact.
That's right.
Go to your constitution. Why do we not have our banks? Because we sat back and let idiot Keating turn all our banks into national banks because he told us he's the most brilliant treasurer we ever had. He was the biggest criminal we ever had, the homosexual idiot who left his wife for a bloke as soon as he got out of Parliament. What a degenerate. But can we fix it? Yes. I discussed that with you earlier too a little bit. We can create a bank. We need enough money to pay 2 months' wages. Get a building, put the people in there. We are the people. We own the assets of this country. We can create loans to buy houses out of our assets. We have that ability constitutionally because we don't have a parliament. We have a government, which is a corporation. So we, the people, can set those banks up. We can lend money created under the authority granted by the Constitution. It's there. It's there for us to use. Our politicians are supposed to be using it. If they don't, we can. We can actually say, well, he needs $100,000, we will write a cheque.
Interest-free.
And it is interest-free. The current thing for a transaction is $13.50, and that's a minimal charge. So when somebody pays their payment, they pay the $13.50. After 2 months, if you get 100,000 customers and you get them pretty quick, your bank would be making money. You take that money and buy gold in excess of your wages. That bank becomes gold backed and it starts to build up. You've built up your asset base. So all the loans you've written out are backed up by both the gold and the assets in the ground. There's hundreds of trillions of dollars of assets in the ground. Why don't we do it? Because, oh, it's too hard. I've got to spend a couple of hours extra at the office, or I've got to give a bit of money, or I've got to help this person. Goes back to, do you have the guts to get off your backside and go and do it? Because if we want to keep this country, we're going to have to. We're going to have to create a bank that we control. But it's not Bendigo Bank. It's not Joe Blow's private bank. It is the People's Bank of Western Australia. We can do it, or Queensland, or any other country where you come, every state you come from. We can create those banks, but it takes people. I know what to do, but I don't have the time to do it anymore. I'm either driving to and from Geraldton, or trying to lose some weight, or but at the same time, I've got that much on my plate I can't take on anymore. I just can't.
I know where all the gold is if you want it.
No, I know where it is. I work part-time for a gold mine, mate. I know exactly where the gold is and its point. Yeah, well,
how long would it take before all bank became corrupt?
you could start a bank like that.
No, he said how long would it take
Before all bank was corrupt.
before the
Greed
bank.
corrupts people.
If the bank belongs to the people, and you're working for the people, how can it be corrupted?
Plus there will be enough people to keep everyone
No,
straight.
you go, this is what I'm saying. It's all right to say people can corrupt it, but if you have a board that sets a wage at X amount of dollars, irrespective of what the position is in the bank, and that's the constitution of that, and you stick to that, then it's not corrupt.
Let's take the example of all them financial advisors, they were advising.
We don't want financial advisors, we don't need them, because a dollar is a dollar, and if you lend $100, you've lent $100. What do you want a financial advisor to tell you how to manipulate and rip off the system? There's your first part of corruption. You've got to keep it out. I'm not just having a shot at you, that is a fact. Yes. Can you be quiet? It's actually being recorded. You're wiping it out, sorry.
What's the difference between gold and silver under the Constitution?
None.
Okay.
Gold and silver can be used to back money. The assets of the country can. Like when they built the Trans-Australia Railway, they used what's under the ground.
I understand that, but I understood earlier that silver was belonged to the people. It was the printable money.
Well, it's not. I think it's 115, the Constitution.
115 that says gold and silver.
Yeah, gold and silver, you can pay your bills, so it doesn't matter. I don't think it's just where it's manipulated. I mean, they couldn't use diamonds because I know there's trillions of them stored away to keep the value on.
Yeah.
But we are quite capable of starting a bank.
Yeah.
We are. All we've got to do is get a group willing to do it, willing to put the time in, or people with the time. You know, there's a lot of people that are hurting, trying to manipulate and keep their business going, but there's a lot of people like me who could be retired who have the ability to do it, but too friggin' lazy to get off their backside and do it. We need people to do it.
Wayne, all you need is $300,000 and 3 directors to form a bank.
Yeah, but you don't want to form a company and you don't want to go under their banking laws, because the banking laws are actually unlawful. All of them.
Yeah,
the only banking law...
Just to get it up and running, that's all you got to do.
I understand that, but your banking laws are here. The ability to multiply money comes from here. And if you use the Constitution to set up your bank, they are going to come and try and stop you. It'll be the biggest case you'll ever chuck into the High Court, but you'll walk out winning if the High Court's going to back up the Constitution. I can only say the ability's there, but the ability to perform it has got to be us. That's all it is. You've got to be able to do it. You've got to want to do it. Yes?
Over in England, they started one called the Lawful Bank. And that's going to be up and running. I hope they're up and running in 2015, and that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, look, if it's going to take till 2016 and they're not doing it according to the Constitution. See, Britain has got a Constitution. They keep saying they are. But the first part of their Constitution is making it harder. The 1688 Bill of Rights Act, the Settlement, habeas corpus, they're all their Constitution. It's made up of several acts. I don't know why it's going to take so long, because I know from what I sat down and worked out, I could start a bank here tomorrow. If you had a building and enough people to man the county, you could start a bank. How soon people would come into it? You can't say.
They're all about getting the infrastructure and getting up and running.
Well, infrastructure for a bank under the Constitution is simple. A ledger. A ledger and contracts. A contract is just what a deed of agreement is, a contract. You just say, so and so and so and so agree to pay back X amount of money loaned to me from this institution. There's your deed of agreement. All the rest is clauses because he might rip off him, or the insurance company wants some, or some other maggot wants some other part of it. But it is a simple document. It can be made simple. The KISS syndrome applies on a lot of things, and it should be applied.
You know what happened to Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy when they started printing constitutional money?
Are you worried? No, honestly, are you worried? Well, that's the first step to stepping forward and doing something. If you're going to worry about what can happen to you, nothing's ever going to get done, because you walk outside and you get hit by a bus or something fall out of the sky and wipe you out. Stop worrying. If you believe in God, you know where you're going, why are you even worrying? I'm not. I couldn't care less.
That's why we're all here.
My point exactly. My point exactly. Get out and do something. Anybody else? You all want to go home. You just want to break. I need a break.
The judicial process in Western Australia and what that means.
Yeah, well, McGuinty and his clowns put together, as an Attorney General, put together legislation called the Acts Amendment, Repeals Court and Legal Practice Act. It was ratified supposedly by the government on the 1st of January 2004. I put the matter to wheel the Pullman bus on the 6th of November 2006 in a case against the Grand Shire and me. They ruled that Section 8 of that Act never removed the Crown, it just changed the name. And I said, well, now you've got the biggest problem out. So what's that? I said, right about now you should get a tight feeling around here. Because under Hawtrey's Laws of England, Volume 2 at 284, it says to change the name of the Crown's a felony treason. Penalty is death by hanging. And she didn't know what to say, so she went on another subject. She said, go back to the issue just before you. You're sitting in treason. She wouldn't have it, but she went ahead. But they are the types of things that McGuinty did. But one thing he did that people don't realise, they turned the whole system into the government has to comply with the Constitution is until, when you put a case before the court, you must prove the law you're using. So if the Constitution goes against any of their laws, you have to take it all the way to the High Court and prove your law is valid. They reverse the rule of law. Now, as for change the name of the Crown, they reckon they didn't. Well, the Governor is not the Queen, so how do you replace the Queen in our legislation, put the Governor there? You wouldn't look too good in a tiara with a long dress on, you'd look a bit weird. But how does the Crown become the state? When the Crown is the state, it's the Crown in right of the state, which is the people. But what everybody doesn't realise from the Acts Amendment, Repeals Court and Legal Practice Act, what they actually did is they reversed the rule of law and they created, in this state, the full corporate state of the state of Western Australia. So the state they refer to as a corporation, along with its own ABN number. When you look at that act, it is so ambiguous, but if it was made pursuant to the Constitution, it would just be thrown in the bin. And that, does that answer your question? Anybody else?
Graham, what was the case that Benji got taken? It's McGuinty that where they stated that Western Australia must come under the Constitution.
Yeah, that was in 1996, McGuinty versus the state of Western Australia. He challenged the state and said that they could create what they wanted, and the High Court ruled that the states only became such under the provisions of 106, 107, 108 and 109 of the Commonwealth Constitution. McGuinty was then told to get out of the court. He wasn't a lawyer, he hadn't done his letters and everything else he had to do, but he was already in trouble with the High Court over the Marquette decision. But when you look at what McGuinty tried and what the High Court ruled, they ruled for us straight up. That's why it doesn't matter if they're a corporation, they still rule for us. And that was Murray Gleeson. He was the Chief Justice at the time. Another brilliant bloke. He was a Freemason, but he still hated the system, how they were bending it. You know, there are good people in the Freemason movement, even though what they do is wrong. And I know it is, it's everything I believe. But he ruled to such an extent that we were able to use that decision to floor half of the rubbish they put forward, because he said, we are bound by the Constitution. You're bound by the Constitution because unless 106 is applied to all your state law, you've got nothing.
Do you remember that HCA, that one?
No. What? Memory that. No, I didn't use it very often, I just used the text, so I never memorised. I usually do memorise most things, as much as possible.
No, you won't.
But in the Constitution, say, so me and you say the Freemason, he might be a good bloke, but he's party to
treason.
That's right.
Because they swear an oath to a foreign corporation and country,
so
which is the city of inner London.
You can't be both, can you? You've got to have allegiance to one or the other.
Well, it's contrary to our criminal code, both Commonwealth and state. So, from that point of view, yeah, you're right. You can't. I don't like Masons. We charged every Marley. He was the head of the Freemason in Western Australia, and every sitting Freemason on the 11th of March 2008 with treatment.
And they won't hear it, will they?
Well, it's sitting there. Eventually, they're going to have to. Yeah. Look, we got 127 charges against Julia Gillard for treason. They're sitting there. They can't withdraw them because we played a big game with them. When they went to the magistrate went to withdraw them, we arrested him and took him over the road in the court for treason. He resigned because he knew what we put was correct, and he knew if we continued, he was going to jail. Because he resigned and conceded that what we were doing was correct, we didn't touch him.
How did you arrest him? Bunch of people.
Walked up and dragged him out of there. Him and Damien Bugg, the head of the DPP, took him straight into the Supreme Court. And when the idiot behind the counter wouldn't take the charge, we just started writing out the charge against him. He said, took him. There was 25, 26 of us at the time, and we're all working together. Yeah. Unfortunately, Brian Shaw and us had a little bit of a break-up. It was because of something he said about somebody, and we're not going to talk to him until he goes back and apologises and sorts out the problem, because it was serious. And it was an internal thing, we just leave it at that. He has to deal with the issues raised. But apart from that, yeah, it's interesting life to lead.
Well, I think you better hurry up and do it, because we've got more pressing issues at hand.
Well, we don't argue with him. We went away our way, and by getting away from him, we got away from the continual attacks on the Freemasons, which removed a stumbling block on us. Because, and I now believe it was meant to be that way, because when you attack the Freemasons, you're attacking a religion. Yeah. And we, under the Constitution, I don't feel we could do it. And as soon as we went away from that, we started doing good in the court, because we weren't going in there and saying, you're a Freemason, what are you doing in our court? We know they're Freemasons. We know they're having satanic rituals and everything else they have. But we're not throwing it in their face. They're more prepared to at least tolerate us to go through their court. They're not going to rule for us. We're not that silly. But we can go through their court without being blocked. When they declared Brian Shaw vexatious and refused to let him go any further, when he went to the federal court, they did the same. The High Court, they did the same. Yet they tried it on me, and they're going to hear their case. It's a lot of difference, and it's got to do with how we present things. We've got to present things with honour and dignity, give them a chance to answer back, even though we hate what they are and what they do. We have to present it in a respectable way, even though we hate everything they do. You get further, that's what we want to do.
The fact that they do an oath to Freemasonry is, that's against the Constitution itself, isn't it? Because you can't swear allegiance to any other oath but the Crown.
Well, the Hill case said you can't be part of another country. They're part of the City of London, which is a separate country.
Yes.
So they're actually in breach of their own decisions. But do you throw that in their face, or do you manipulate them and use them harmlessly to achieve what you want to achieve? Yep. You've got to manipulate them and use them. And if we get somewhere by it, go for it. Because at the end of the day, that's what we want. We want a result, we don't want a confrontation. And if you get the result, if you have a little confrontation, I get into it every now and again with them, it's fun. But they still respect your ability to put a case to them. They get worried with my memory, but that's fun too. But I have a wall with them, and they now start to respect that you have some knowledge. And they know we are capable of putting documents together in a way that they want to see. And once you get that ability, and it is an ability which you have to learn. I mean, it's taken me 8 years to get half the stuff right. We had a case in Tasmania where the two budding members of Parliament put out pamphlets in relation to homosexuals. So they charged them. So we filed, we waited until it went to a hearing date on the constitutional issue under 116 of the Constitution. We filed 42 verses out of the Bible which condemned homosexuality. We now made it a religious constitutional issue. We filed a Form 17 under Rule 26 of High Court rules, which is removal into the High Court. Justice Haynes got it plain like that straight into the High Court 1 week. The DPP pulled it, and I went over there for a lecture and I said, no, don't let them get away with it. It's already in the High Court. We moved it on the constitutional issue. They must hear that. All they pulled is a charge. They can't pull what you've put to the court. So I did some documents and they filed them. Haynes says, bring it in, I want to talk to it. It's been in once, he said decides for a full hearing. So it's going to be interesting. They don't want homosexuality in there. And they don't want to go against the Bible because they know they do that, 70% of the population will turn on them. So by just doing a simple thing, we've got where we want to get. It's just a matter of thinking without getting angry and putting it in. I mean, I spent about 8 or 10 hours putting all their paperwork together. They emailed it over to me and I sent it all back to them because I can't email to save me life. I keep stuffing it up and it goes wherever. Probably to the Freemasons themselves. I don't care, I'm not that interested in computers. But at the end of the day, we had a big win. The DPP were so scared they pulled it, and now the High Court wants it, and we're going to get a hearing in relation to the issue of religious freedom and the ability to condemn something that's against the Bible. And that's what we wanted.
Yeah.
So we've achieved a heap.
But they're not going to go against the Bible.
No, because it's going to bring them down.
Can we then bring up usury?
We can.
On that, if you win that?
No, not on that issue. We need to go back to taxation and that, and all your mortgages and stuff like that. But that is a huge, big area. I didn't touch on it today because you need probably about 3 hours just to go through the whole system, and it is a big thing.
Maybe Saturday, right?
And
So you're using the court's decision to not have homosexual marriage and things like that?
No, because against the Bible, it says in the Bible, if a man lays with a man as he would with a woman, stone him to death.
Yeah, I understand. But does the Constitution say freedom from religion?
No, it says that 116 says no parliament can legislate against a person's religion, nor can they question it. But they're not. The people assume that Islam and all those things are lawful under that section. No, they're not. The Queen is the keeper of the faith, the Protestant faith. Any Protestant-based religion is the only religion that's lawful here. Catholicism actually isn't lawful here. But it's tolerated under the provisions of Protestant.
I understand that.
Even though it's not.
The using the not allowing homosexuals to be married under law and things like that in accordance to get whatever you're trying to pass through the courts. You know, like that. Don't you reckon there's a bit of a double negative?
No. No, as I said to the people in Tasmania when they brought it up and they asked me what I thought about homosexuals, I turned to this lady who was really nasty to me. I said, then you think that a man putting his penis in the anal passage of another man is normal? You are one sick puppy. Don't like what I said, lady, sorry, that's what I believe.
Yeah, 100%. I'm not homosexual myself.
No, I didn't for 1 second suggest you would.
What I'm saying is, that's all I'm all about.
I think as a human race, we're first humans, then religion's after faith after that.
So faith is part of being a human, and I mean you can separate it out if you like. That's my belief. I stick to what I believe, and I do not, under any circumstances, condemn homosexuals to their face. That's not what I'm about. I tell them what they're doing is wrong according to the common law and what I believe. They can go and do whatever they like in their own house because it's on their head. go out and get married in my country? No.
Yeah,
because it's against our common law.
it's against common sense.
Well,
obviously, but it's against common law.
Common sense too.
I mean, I've got an incident in my life that involves that. But that's as far as I'm going, so just leave that.
Just on like that one topic, I would like to say that homosexuals have always had the ability to and do whatever they want behind closed doors. That's fine.
Yep.
I believe the whole purpose for them wanting to get married now is so that they can adopt children.
No
That's
way.
where I draw the line.
Yeah, no
because they are going to involve a third party that's got nothing, no say in it.
Freedom. They should have the freedom to do what they please. That's what we want.
But not get married.
Causing no harm, loss or injury, exactly.
If they want you married, or look, if they don't want to marry, a marriage to me is a piece of paper. It's nothing. It's a man-made law.
No, it's
you
not.
sign something.
Sorry.
It's just a piece of paper.
That is the corporate part of it. Sorry, I disagree, and I'm going to disagree because I want to explain something. Marriage is ordained by God as a union between a man and a woman. The man, hang on, let me finish. It isn't a man-made law. It's a God-made union between two people. Two people join together and become one. How can you join two men together?
We called it marriage.
They call that marriage, but the marriage of the Bible is what I refer to, and that's between a man and a woman. Anything else is an abomination. I don't want to know about it. I'm sorry. Look, I'm not saying go out and beat up every hooker around, because I'm against that too. But what I am against is they go out and walk hand in hand down the road. I want to vomit on them. Because it repulses. It's my belief.
Yes.
And I'm not saying you follow my belief. I'm saying look at the law. Our laws currently say no. So as far as I'm concerned, have a referendum. If the people say you can have it, I wouldn't like to be in the church, but I would not vote for it. I'm not criticising you. I'm just saying.
But if they want children, they should be allowed to bring
No.
parents out there.
No. We'll agree on that one because you've got your view. Mine is Christ. So you don't bow to them. And if they query it, that's my Christian belief, mate. I'm not going to bow to you. I've been checked on that. And it's not out of disrespect. It's out of respect for our common law. Now, when you go in the court, and I've been there when people have turned their backs on the court. I even got accused of instigating it, and I said to them, you're a liar. I did not. Play the tape, you'll see I did not say it. Nor would I. Because you are not the court. This gathering is a gathering under the Crown. It is our court. And that's when they charged me with contempt of the Supreme Court. I said that to Heenan. I did not do that. You can tell all the lies you like. I don't agree. He shouldn't be there. I agree. Whose job is it to get him out? Ours. How do we do it? With the law. If that can answer your question, fine, but that's my view. Don't stand up and turn your back on. Stand up and don't bow to it. You're standing up in respect to our court. And when they see you're respecting your court, not them, that worries them. Because they want the respect. I will not call him your honour. Sir, mister, not your honour. Because he's not. There's no honour in his position. Because he's not sitting there lawfully. We need to respect our court. When we respect our court and not them, they think, well, how can I be in their own sick little minds? How can I be part and get the respect? Get back under the Crown. It mightn't change any of them, but if it changes one, or at least makes them think we've achieved more than we did before. You turn your back, you get disrespect, they're going to give you disrespect and hand it out in huge fines. We don't want that. We want to get our system back. That's what we have to fight for. Okay? Yes?
New subject.
Yours is taxation.
Oh, yes and no, yes.
Yes.
The ex-Chief Judge, Sir Harry Gibbs, wrote a letter about Attorneys General being illegal.
Yep, they are.
Yeah. But That was my question. I was going to ask you whether you believe that was the case and whether...
Yeah, well, I explained that earlier. The Attorney-General cannot be a sitting member of Parliament. He cannot sit in Parliament. He can't be part of the executive government. He must be selected by, at a Commonwealth level, by the Governor-General as an officer of the Crown. He is the head law officer of the country in as much as it's his job to propose legislation to go to the Executive Council before it is presented to Parliament. So from that aspect, yeah, he got it right, because he knew they were not appointed under the statute of monopolies. Here, you read some of the other things he wrote. He was a brilliant bloke, and he was not a Mason, and he hated the Masons. And when you read all his decisions, and there's a lot, there's actually a book written about him, and if you get it and you have a look at it, he's a brilliant bloke. He's like Isaac Isaacs and Sir Samuel Griffith. They were brilliant people. I wouldn't mind half them running in. Sometimes I think, no, I've got enough crap in there now. I don't need any more. It's not going to work.
I'm going to use some of his material.
Yeah, because you can use it. I mean, he made a statement in relation to what justice is and how it works. If you can get that and just stick it in a place, I hate that. Offhand, I can't remember the exact wording, so I won't even try to quote it, but I've actually got it written down. I handed it up to Wayne Martin, the pretending Chief Justice of the court. And he just sat there and dumbfounded and didn't know how to answer. I said, answer it. He said, I'm not going to. I said, no, because you can't comply. You aren't who you say you are. You're a fraud and a liar. He couldn't touch me because he's already admitted he hasn't sworn the oath of allegiance to the Queen. If he hasn't, he's not a judge. It's simple.
And you need to change that word illegal
to unlawful.
And everybody needs to be aware of that.
And when you refer to the Constitution, it's the Commonwealth Constitution 1901, not the Commonwealth Constitution Act. The Act is an act of the Constitution because the Constitution was put in place as our will by referendum. It might sound trivial, but it goes a long way as a point of law. A long way. Because the acts of the Constitution, Magna Carta and all those things, they're all acts of the Constitution, and the Constitution Act is an act of the Constitution. Sounds silly? No. Our Constitution is derived completely verbatim from it, but it isn't an act anymore, it's a Constitution. They keep saying, we're under the British Act, the Commonwealth Constitution Act. They're just saying that we've got you in corporate law. No, you haven't. We're under the Commonwealth Constitution 1901. You've got to be precise. That's why it's very important you follow that.
Yes.
Another cop today.
Never are. Just look at idiots.
What about the legislation regarding Governor General?
Well, there is a letters patent regarding the Governor General. I've actually got a copy and I haven't actually verified it yet. And when I do, I will put it out there. There's a reciprocating letters patent issued by Queen Victoria, both for state governors and the Governor General. It's been hidden. I found a copy. I don't know if it's accurate. I've got to check it out. When it is, I'll let it out. But you've got to check every single document because a lot of people are producing false ones. It's so easy with cut and paste and some of these new... Yeah, well, he's a fraud in himself.
In 1976 or whenever it was, when was it Sir Charles Court reinstated the...
Grand Master Freemason Court, yeah?
Yeah, when he reinstated the Constitution Act of WA and got a sanction to the Queen. What was the story behind that, like?
Well, we didn't have a lawful governor, so how could he assent something and he wasn't a lawful politician, so how could he propose it? It goes back to what we got before the High Court. We have no lawful parliaments ever established in this state and no lawful courts. Doesn't matter what they've done since then. I know there's people running out, we signed the Treaty of Versailles. No, we didn't. The Parliament did. Where'd they get their permission? They did. Did we become an independent sovereign nation because of that? No. There's people on the internet all the time. We signed the Treaty of Versailles. No, we didn't. I wasn't even born then. I hope. No, I wasn't. There is no way. We didn't join the United Nations. That's proven. Julia Gillard bought a seat on there because we can't join. Why can't we join? It's
because
one
we're a colony.
We are not an independent nation. We are a self-governing colony of England, operating as under a constitution, a contractual agreement between us and the Crown.
But didn't that finish in 1919 with the signing of the Treaty of First State by Australia?
Was there a referendum?
No.
Then it didn't happen.
Then it didn't happen.
The Parliament serves us. We don't serve them. Before they couldn't even propose the legislation that they used. It had to be from the Attorney General. We didn't have one. Had to come from a lawful government. We didn't have one of those either.
Yes,
had to go to a lawful parliament. We didn't have any one of those either. So what did we get? Nothing. All these people going, oh, we did this, it created nothing. You don't do something unlawful and create something.
So Australia couldn't sign it without a referendum from the people.
You couldn't do it then. The Constitution is indissoluble. It says, by the grace of Almighty God, we the people join together in the Federation, in one indissoluble Federation of the Commonwealth of Australia. Now, I will explain that because it's pretty accurate. You've got to look who the Crown is. Is it the Queen? No.
It's the monarch.
Why? It's the monarch. And who's the monarch? God. So to dissolve our Constitution, we now have to go to God. Listen, I'll explain something. The only representative we got on this earth of God is the Queen. And 4 years ago, she signed up to join the Knights of Malta. She went against the coronation oath, so we don't have a lawful monarch. Lawful on paper, but not lawfully established under law. Who can you go to now to dissolve our Constitution? We have to petition God to give us permission to remove something that gives us the only safety we got. Is it going to happen? Yes. We don't want to. Yeah, you'll say, good mate, just keep going, leave it. No, look, honestly, that is the situation we are in with our Constitution. Until we get a lawful monarch, and Charlie can't do it, he's married to a whore. Yeah. Sorry, but that's all she is. He slept with her while he was married. She's a whore. Absolutely. His deceased wife's son, Harry, is the next in line for the throne, lawfully.
No, William.
William, sorry. It's all right, you can confuse the names. It doesn't matter. The same. Come out of the same body, different person.
So we continued on as a colony until when?
Until we wanted to dissolve it as a nation.
Are we a colony now?
Yes. Yes. We can't change from a colony, but we're self-governing with a constitution which overrides all the law, international law as well. All these international agreements are nothing. Because to put them into this country, if they comply with our constitution, they can be instigated, but only with our permission. And it must be by referendum. Did you vote to allow them to do it? No. Section 51 of the Constitution allows them to have external affairs powers, but it doesn't allow them to bring what they sign into this country except by referendum. Where do they get the permission from? Is it inside the limits of their legislative authority? No. So have they got a problem? Huge. You've got to go back to learning your Constitution, because then you just say, garbage.
Should have been a lot more referendums that haven't happened.
Yes.
And a lot that did happen shouldn't have.
Well, we got Jim from the start in 1901, didn't the Governor General of that time tried to put in somebody that was against monarchy in there, but somehow Edmund Barton's
Sir Edmund Barton kind of dropped dead because Sir Edmund Barton was the first Prime Minister. He was also one of the main people involved in the putting together of the Constitution. So they were behind the 8 ball in everything they did. That's when Queen Victoria issued a perpetual office of Governor General. And all she did is issue a letters patent that made the position perpetual, which means you could, when one died, all they had to do is create another one but notify the Queen. They've done the creating, but never told the Queen, so nobody knows who they are. Quentin Bryce, why would you have her? She comes from another country according to their parliament. The Brigalow Corporation registers it separately from Australia. So where did they get their authority? They don't.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question, because this question is on the lips of every Australian. Every time we speak in social media, they're all talking about it.
Yeah.
So, we've got a problem with the council, and we all know it's race.
Yep.
So someone doesn't want to pay them.
Yep.
So they don't pay them for 7 years.
Yep.
What is their legal course of action? How do they?
Well, the only legal course of action for the council is to take you to a trial by jury if you don't get it appealed to the High Court on that ground. Every case that's been to the High Court, and I was explaining that with Kay the other day, when they've done something against the council, they've never made the issue of the validity of the council under the Constitution the issue that's before the court. They've made what they've done. You've got to understand the court. It can only operate on what's put to it. If you don't put the invalidity, they can't deal with it. In the case in the Northern Territory regarding the Mormons wanting to preach on the street, they said they hold it in peace until they can prevent it. But they didn't challenge the one thing that would have won it, the validity of the people sitting there, the council. It's never been done. We've got it. In Kay and Richard's place, we've got their case, and it is against the validity of the council. Because we realise we have to do that. In law, you've got to be very precise what you put to the court. You need to go, like you can put the council, you can put all the things they do, but you must challenge their validity. Otherwise, you're not challenging anything. You're just saying, well, they can't do that. If under the current laws, if you couldn't call them that, they're acts, the land outside your fence is vested in local government. But when you talk to them, it's a municipality. Because local government's a state parliament. They know it. You go to your politician and talk to them, yeah, that's who they are. Why do you call them local government? Because they want to remove the state parliaments and put councils in.
You're responsible for roads, parks and lighting.
You know when they broke us up into postcodes?
Well, that's corporate. Well, see, I'll let you know a little secret you may not know. The national anthem of this country is God Save the Queen, because they can't remove it without a referendum in a year. The currency of this country is pounds, shillings and pence, but they can't remove it. They created pounds, shillings and pence and the metric measurement of land to conform with the Uniform Commercial Code. And by doing that, they basically took everything off us. That's why I said we don't own it, we have to learn what they did and how they did it. If I got into that area, that also is a few hours and it's very, very intricate. But even your mortgages, how they establish it, it's shocking.
Well, they still deal with promissory notes, aren't they? Banks. And not fiat money.
There isn't any money.
Well, that's right.
There's no gold to back it up.
Exactly.
Your $5, $10, $20 and $100 notes, they are of no value. They are.
But then again, any fines or imposts, anything like that, under the Currency Act of 1965, sections 6, 11, 15, whatever, the highest denomination of gold and silver in our land today, under the decimal system, is a $2 coin. And you can only pay 10 times the highest value, the crown on,
Of the highest
as a fine. There's nothing over it, $20 fine. Law-free.
And there's no gold in the $2 coin, so you can't
That's
buy
right.
it.
And if you're asked to do so,
we gave them those.
and if you're asked to do so, you're being asked to go against.
Treason.
That's right. You
What you're bringing up is legitimate things. If you want me to come back and talk to you on all those things, fine, make a list and I'll come back and do it.
Yes.
You couldn't possibly cover it in a couple of minutes. It's impossible. Yes.
Wayne, I wanted to raise the issue of my current court case. You're partly aware of it, but I thought for the group that if you've got 10-15 minutes for it, it's probably quite enlightening.
It's probably not a good time now because my back is killing me if I'm leaning against the post. It's too old to stand here for this many hours.
Yeah, no problem. We'll raise it some other time.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of things that need to come out. It's got to do with mortgages, how they put them together, everything. It is so criminal, but to bring it all out in one day, it's going to confuse everybody. I put out enough now that when you look at the thing, you're going to see just how much is in it. It's heaps. And to try and remember it, it's heaps. And I don't want to overload people because, like reading, you forget it. You put it out of your mind because there's just too much there.
Well, can I just ask a general question without going into detail?
Yeah.
The issue, the slight confusion I have is, I've been setting up the bank for the last 2 years, and I've got it in the corner now. And we've had the last hearing 2 weeks ago, and the judge can't go anywhere now. He's like this, right?
Yeah.
And now the plaintiff submitted fraudulent evidence, and I caught him with red hands, and that's just gone in 2 days ago, on Tuesday this week. There's another hearing on the 24th. So my confusion is, do I go down the contractual path that I am and have given respect to the judge as he is up there, right? But I've felt now that he's getting very biased because I've got them by the short and curly. They can't go anywhere. The fraud's proven on the desk, and they've submitted false evidence. So the stuff I put in is to kick him out for lack of evidence. Or do I now go after the judge based on what you've taught?
Well, why don't you go after both? There's nothing to stop you doing both. And if he says, why are you raising this issue, you say, because you're committing a tort on me.
And it's just come to my attention.
That you're committing a tort on me. Yeah. Why not? That gives you somewhere to go. Well, it gives you somewhere to go afterwards, doesn't it? Because if he chucks a case out, you can appeal because he committed a tort. So you're going to get your issue before the court with a remedy that can go to the High Court.
And I would do it in the form of an affidavit.
Yep.
And submit it as evidence.
Okay.
Because in
at the onset
law,
of the next hearing.
The reason you do it by affidavit, an affidavit stands alone as a fact of law until disputed with law or evidence, and they can't do it.
So if I raise that issue at the beginning of the hearing, in a friendly manner, where do we go from there? I mean, really, he wants to continue and hear it. Do I walk away or do I stay?
He's more than likely going to, but you don't leave. You don't leave.
Well, he's at a point now where he probably doesn't want to hear it anymore because...
Well, then he'll kick it out. So you're going to win or win. If he doesn't kick it out and it goes ahead, you've put in place a method to go into a further court.
Okay. Which is the High Court's already...
or any of the courts above. And give them the chance to chuck it out, which you're not going to do. But at the end of the day, you can go forward from where you are with the point, a strong point to get at it. But if it's a tort there, you're going to get a financial remedy, and he knows it. So what's he going to do? Jump out as soon as he can.
And then somebody else goes in place?
That's correct. He's either going to kick it out and say, well, you appeal against it, I don't care. Then you lodge your appeal in tort. Because irrespective of what he's found, he's committed the tort against you by continuing, because he's invalid, sitting there. He's unlawful.
Okay.
And if the Supreme Court doesn't deal with the tort, single
That's
judge,
right.
and the other 3 judges don't, you've got them all in the High Court.
So then whatever the penalty is, like say if it's $100,000 penalty on the one judge, when it goes to the 3, it's $100,000 against each of them.
Times 4, correct?
Times 4. You see what I'm talking about? The laws of tort are painful for them. And they know, because it was the 8th of May last year, the last major tort case went through the High Court. And the judge said, and it was French, we're subject to tort, and even the Queen is subject to tort. So they know. They can't say they don't.
So you can take tort against a civil person, just
anybody.
Anyone.
Anybody for any civil wrong they commit against you. You can be in the middle of a murder trial and one of the people there lies and he's sprung and you've got the evidence. While he's sitting in jail waiting to get hung, you can sue the guts out of him and get a heap of money. Won't do you any good, but you can fix him up. That's how powerful tort law is. It applies to everybody.
But lawyers hate tort.
Because they can't get
and
around.
they are not allowed to use them.
Because lawyers under Section 5 of the Act Amendment Repeals Court and Legal Practice Act are officers of the court. And they are compliant with everything that's going on.
Is that the same as commercial liens? So how close is that a tort to a commercial lien?
Well, a commercial lien's fine. I've looked up at doing it. I've looked at the people who have done it, and they've put it all in there. It's all sitting there fine. But how are you going to enforce it?
Yeah, same. We've got 10 or 12 liens sitting.
They don't recognise it. Whereas a tort rises out of the court to go to the High Court. You can't bring a commercial lien into the High Court. It's not constitutional. Tort is. It's imperial acts.
The only thing you can do with a lien is you have physically sent them an invoice.
Oh, one? 30?
Just listen.
Yeah.
You physically sent them an invoice and they haven't paid it.
Yep.
You can go to Landgate and you can put a caveat absolute against them.
So if they want to deal with their property, they have to pay it out.
We put the lien in the UCC in Washington, registered it over there and sent them a copy of it.
Yeah, but you've got a problem with that, you know why? Because unless you're an American citizen, you can't do anything in their courts.
But the UCC
Yeah, no, the enforcing is the issue.
But if you have actually physically said, say it's the council,
Yeah.
a lien,
Yeah.
and they haven't paid it, then you can go to Landgate and it costs you $165 to put a caveat absolute against them. But the proof that you need is the invoice that they owe you that
Yeah,
money.
the whole process with the default notice, everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
And watch them jump in.
Okay, last question, please. That's it. We've got to call it a day eventually. As much as we'd love to keep you here all night. But he's done it.
He'd be clagged, I'll be sitting in the corner snoring after a while. And I don't even snore, so yeah, right.
Last question, anyone?
Thank you, Wayne.
When's our next session together?
Whenever you arrange it.
Okay.
But don't make it for, well, just get back to me on that in a time, because I've got a lot of things on in the next 2 months. I've got to be very careful where I put my time. I've also got to be wary of when these cases come up in the High Court. And we've done Richard and Kay's as a written presentation. Mine is actually in the face of the court. And I have to be ready. That might say go to camera, well, that's where I'm going. I have no problem fronting them up. They don't scare me one little bit. But I know what I want to put, and there's things I have to put, and they have to be put verbally. I can back up everything I've got there, that there's issues you couldn't put on paper, and give it the meaning that I can when I'm in their face. I'll only be given half an hour to talk, but that half an hour I can put a heck of a lot into it. I've already worked out in my mind what I want to put there, and I've stored that up here ready to give it right to them. But I have to have that time available. I mean, I've got a lot of things. I want to go overseas, I want to go and see people, I want to do different things. But if the case comes up, that's first. Irrespective of the consequences of me not going anywhere, that is, it's taken 8 years. I'm not giving it 8 years. Because it's for everybody. It's not just for me. This is not about me. This is about making the system comply. So, from that point of view, just give us a rough time when you want it, and I'll see if I can fit it in. I don't have a problem with doing it.
And don't we applaud him for that?
Thank you. I don't do that kind of thing, you know.